This was the mask every man would kill for. Not only could it turn someone into a washed-up geezer, barely 18, it could also morph into any image one imagined. When Song Yunxiang put on, he froze for 2.5 seconds. He had transformed into the aged version of his past life. But before he could react, the maid Qing Dai entered as usual to clean the room. The moment she saw this unfamiliar old man, she tensed and demanded, "Who are you? Where is young Master Yunxiang?" Caught off guard, Song Yunxiang hurried forward, trying to explain. But Qing Dai instantly drew her sword and thrust at him. Fortunately, Yunxiang was battle-hardened. With a swift move, he restrained her. The maid struggled, ready to shout and alert the guards outside. But before she could utter a word, Yunxiang covered her mouth and nose. He glanced at the mirror, their awkwardly intimate pose making him flush with embarrassment. Then he recalled the 4 words etched on the mask: mind shapes form. With that thought, he decided to test it. With a sharp swish, he transformed into Qing Dai herself. Yunxiang grinned slyly. As he suspected, whatever image flashed in his mind, his body would take on instantly. No wonder he had shown his true form earlier. That was the image he held of himself deep inside. Realizing this, sorrow welled up in his heart. He had once been a cripple with broken soul veins, unable to summon a soul general. And yet, he alone butchered wave after wave of beasts, holding the line for humanity for decades. Facing tens of thousands of enemies, he fought on until defeat was inevitable. In the end, he chose to perish together with the star beasts. In the year 1390 of the new era, humanity's final fortress was breached. Hordes of monsters tore through the dimensional barrier and flooded into the city. They devoured and harvested every living thing in sight. Despair and helplessness filled every corner. But then, a golden light roared down from above. Countless sword shadows burst forth, annihilating the creatures in an instant. When the people looked up, they saw a golden mech hovering in the skies above the city. It was none other than the last warrior capable of commanding a Star Soul general, Song Yunxiang. But he had been born with crippled soul meridians, relying on drugs just to sustain his energy. After decades of brutal wars, every comrade had already fallen. He alone remained, desperately holding the line for humanity. Suddenly, a deep hum shook the skies as more beasts emerged overhead. They unleashed another savage assault upon the ground. At the brink of disaster, the Star Soul General Abyss Lord blinked into place, blocking the full onslaught. But the mech suffered devastating damage in the process. With no other choice, Yunxiang activated the Star Lord system, summoning other Star Soul generals. The Star Lord system, an ancient power he had stumbled upon decades ago in a lost civilization's ruins. It granted him the godlike ability to replicate others' Star Soul generals. Chao Run, his flames could take the form of a raging phoenix. Bai Qi, balanced like a blade on the edge, wielding both speed and strength. Ao Bing, the cataclysm incarnate, unleashing devastation for miles. Lu Bu and Guan Yu, warlords of carnage, unmatched on any battlefield. And Longjiu, a powerhouse beyond compare. But because of the defect in his youth, he could only tap into a fraction, barely 20%, of their true might. Meanwhile, the rifts overhead kept tearing wider, splitting the sky apart. Stronger beasts kept flooding through in endless waves. One man alone could no longer hold them back. In the end, to buy time for the survivors to escape, he made his final decision. To those who once entrusted me with humanity's future, forgive me. With those words, he ignited his own life and triggered self-detonation. In an instant, countless beams of light erupted like doomsday fireworks across the battlefield. Newborn monsters struck by the blast were reduced to blazing fireballs. The earth shook with relentless, thunderous explosions. When the smoke finally cleared, only a massive crater remained, stretching for thousands of meters, everything within erased. "Hey, Song Yunxiang, snap out of it, wake up." At that call, his eyes snapped open once more. He found himself in an unfamiliar place. In the mirror, staring back was the face of his 18-year-old self. This is Nanzhou Mecha Academy? I've gone back 60 years. 60 years ago, he was a cripple with broken soul veins, despised as a worthless failure by his clan. His father, desperate to protect him, pulled strings to send him into Nanzhou Mecha Academy of the Tiandu Kingdom. Back then, he wasted his days in indulgence, drinking and fooling around, until the fall of Tiandu, when the Song clan was annihilated and even the academy was destroyed by the Beast Tide. Only with the help of the Star-Lord system did he barely survive time and again. And now, to his shock, the system had returned with him. But regrettably, all the Star Soul generals he once copied were gone. From his past life's memory, the Beast Tide would strike the academy in just 3 days. Instructors, classmates, elders, brothers, countless lives would be lost in that battle. Back then, he could only watch it unfold, powerless to stop it. But this time was different. He had returned with 60 years of memories and experience. Song Yunxiang, get them out of here. Don't go back, Yunxiang. You can't save the Tiandu Kingdom. Yunxiang, leave. The warriors of the Song clan will die with Yong'an City. Your soul veins are crippled. You can't fight. Go, and keep our bloodline alive. Those voices from the past burned in his mind, fueling his vow to rewrite every regret. 3 days later, golden light surged from Yunxiang's room. He finally paused his training. Though he had pushed himself from yellow rank beginner to peak in just 3 days, his crippled veins made it agonizing. In his last life, he hadn't obtained the rebirth pill until his 50s. It repaired his veins, but left permanent flaws. He was forever stuck at the Saint rank, and the copied Star Soul generals never reached more than a fraction of their power. But now, if he could refine a new rebirth pill, his veins could be perfectly restored, free of any defect. Soon after, he arrived at Nanzhou's Grand Pharmacy to claim the Tianlong route he had reserved, only to be told by the clerk it would take several more hours. Sighing helplessly, Yunxiang decided to use the time to set up formations against the beasts. Back at the academy, he scouted out several suitable locations. In his past life, he had only learned the basics of formation arts. Yet here and now, even that knowledge was a century ahead of the times. Unfortunately, with his current low rank, he could only lay down slowing formations to at least hinder the beast's advance. Just as he wrapped up his preparations, a clerk's message popped in. He immediately made his way back to the pharmacy. On the road, a masked man brushed past, and Yunxiang's instincts flared instantly. With a Star-Lord scan, Yunxiang identified the man's cultivation method. It belonged to the people of Milun Nation. In his past life, Milun had been the first to shatter the balance of power, launching war against the Tiandu Kingdom. Other nations soon joined the bloodshed, sparking the chain of events that led to the destruction of the Eastern continent. For someone from Milun to appear here at this point in time, there had to be a hidden agenda. Soon, he arrived at the pharmacy. The attendant at the door greeted him warmly and presented the freshly delivered Tianlong root. But Yunxiang calmly replied that he had no money. Instead, I'd like to sell you these pills. The clerk was about to refuse, but when he saw what was laid on the table, his jaw dropped. This is a rare tier 4-soul condensing pill. With the Tianlong root in hand, Yunxiang headed for the alchemy room. Inside, he found nothing but a broken furnace. Fortunately, he had studied void refining arts under the spirit folk of the southern continent, allowing him to forge pills without a furnace. Fourfold fusion array rise. With a sweep of his arm, intricate runes lit up across the floor. He tossed in herbs from his storage pouch, along with the Tianlong root. The formation began to hum as his spirit power surged through it. When the pill finally took shape, Yunxiang let out a satisfied smile. Tier 6 rebirth pill. With this, his crippled veins could be fully restored. At the same time, the clerk delivered his earlier pills to the store manager. The manager examined them carefully, his face just as stunned. Then the two of them waited outside the alchemy room for a full hour. At last, the door creaked open. Seeing them, Yunxiang couldn't help but smile inwardly. Hook, line, and sinker. After introductions, the manager cautiously produced a red bottle and asked if it was truly the legendary Tier 5 Bloodburn pill. The Bloodburn pill, known to shatter bottlenecks for rising soul masters, was so rare that even he had scarcely seen one. Song Yunxiang confirmed the manager's guess and placed 2 more pills on the table, saying he would sell them as well. The manager froze as if struck by lightning, stunned beyond words. And that was exactly what Yun Xiang wanted. Behind Nanzhou Pharmacy stood the Hong Chamber of Commerce, one of the three great trading guilds of the Eastern continent. Wealth, rivaling nations, connections reaching everywhere. All of this was part of his plan to withstand the coming beast tide. He needed to raise his strength quickly and build a power base of his own. A giant like the Chamber was the perfect fish to reel in. He then sold the pills at a so-called friendship price, handing them all over. Once the manager left the pharmacy, he immediately reported the matter to the Chamber's higher-ups. On his way back, the sudden appearance of a red-haired girl made Yun Xiang's heart tremble. For this girl was none other than his lover from his past life, a San. Yun Xiang instinctively reached out, grabbing her arm before he could think. The moment he touched a Star Soul General's wielder, the system chimed, copying Star Soul General Lu Bu. San was a deadly assassin of the mysterious organization Taiyuan and the wielder of Lu Bu. In his last life, they hadn't met until 3 years later. By then, she was already at the quasi-saint rank, wielding Lu Bu's unrivaled might to storm battlefields and stop humanity's endless civil wars. As Yun Xiang drifted into those bittersweet memories, San yanked her arm free in panic, then drew a dagger and drove it straight at him. Yun Xiang parried on reflex, desperately trying to explain. The next second, his weak spot was smashed by a brutal high-heel kick. San broke free and bolted away. But moments later, several black-robed figures closed in pursuit. Through the system scan, Yun Xiang confirmed they were also from Milun Nation, just like the masked man he'd encountered near the academy. He hadn't expected so many Milun spies to have already infiltrated at this stage. In his past life, Nanzhou Academy was destroyed during this very beast tide, and the soul jade of Star Soul General Zhuxiai vanished. Could it really have been tied to these infiltrators? Legend said that 1,000 years ago, a human sage created the first Star Soul General. From then on, countless soul masters followed his legacy, carving territory on a continent plagued by beasts. The founding dean of Nanzhou Academy had once been chosen by Zhuxiai. With that power, he secured the lands of Nanzhou for Tiandu and, for centuries ago, established the academy. Afterward, Zhuxi's Star Soul became a soul jade, sealed within a statue to guard the school. Fleeing the black-robed hunters, San was forced into the forest. But it was exactly the trap they had laid. Barriers around her flared to life in an instant. 4 towering mechs emerged, locking her in a deadly cage. Enough games. Finish her off? One barked as the mechs swung their blades down. San leapt skyward, narrowly dodging the strikes. In the next breath, she shouted, "Star Soul Construct." A pillar of blue light thundered down from above. Shards of energy whirled together at her core. Soon, massive twin weapons materialized in her hands. It was none other than the Star Soul General, unrivaled warlord Lu Bu. With a single slash, she cleaved the nearest enemy clean in half. But more mechs poured in from every direction. The Wei Yuan-class mechs may only be Tiandu's mass-produced Star Soul units, but in large numbers, they're still a serious threat. It's time. Activate the spherical Soul Lock formation. At the commander's order, 8 strange arrays flared to life around Lu Bu. From each array shot out a purple chain. In an instant, she was bound tight. This was a formation unearthed from ancient ruins, designed to capture Star Soul Generals. Once restrained, escape was nearly impossible. Soon after, a circular device was positioned at her back, built to forcibly extract a Star Soul's core data. Seeing the danger, San struggled to resist. But no matter how hard she fought, it was useless. Just as her enemies were about to succeed, a flash of blue light tore through the air. The chains binding Lu Bu shattered inch by inch. San spun around, stunned. For the mech behind her was nearly identical to hers, different only in color. Yun Xiang knew now wasn't the time to explain. "Let's finish this first," he said flatly. San snorted coldly, offering no argument. Together, they dove headlong into the enemy ranks. More and more foes fell beneath their assault, but suspicion stirred in San's mind. That man was clearly only at yellow rank. Yet every strike landed with surgical precision, his minimal movements piercing mech cores with ease. The precision of his soul force, the crisp, lethal efficiency of his moves. Utterly impossible for someone of yellow rank. His combat style was like that of a battle-hardened veteran with decades of experience. With the last grunt cut down, both Yun Xiang and Asan turned to the squad leader and barked, "You mangy bald rat, get down and surrender." Such humiliation. How could the old brute endure it? Roaring, he charged forward with his blade. But before he could close the distance, Yun Xiang severed both his arms in a single flash. "Spit it out," Yun Xiang growled coldly. "What exactly are you Miloon dogs plotting?" Realizing he'd been exposed, the leader's eyes twisted with malice. He ignited his soul force, ready to blow himself up. But before Yun Xiang, such a trick was child's play. With one crushing punch, he shattered the mech in a scrap. The leader's body was hurled into the ground by the backlash. And when Yun Xiang noticed the poison fang hidden in his mouth, he sneered, "You must be one of Nightshade's men, aren't you?" Nightshade, the mercenary king who commanded 330,000 remnants of Tai. He was also the wielder of the Star Soul General, Ganjiang, hailing from the sunken island nation of Taiya. In his past life, Yun Xiang knew Nightshade had led the Tai remnants to join Miloon's army as mercenaries, waging relentless war against the Tiandu kingdom. In his past life, he had crossed blades with Nightshade many times. But with crippled soul veins, the gap between them had been an unbridgeable chasm. His right eye ached faintly, the scar Nightshade left behind burning once again. "This one's yours. Take it back to Taiyuan and wring out every secret." At those words, Asan's guard shot up instantly. Even now, the man before her was wrapped in mystery. "Relax. I'm not your enemy, nor Taiyuan's. In fact, our goals align to unite humanity against the real enemy." As soon as he finished, a sudden gale howled, and the sky darkened. Yun Xiang's face hardened at the shift. A rift? Impossible. The beast tide is arriving earlier than it did in my past life. Yuanding City is in danger. He tossed Asan a few pills and turned to leave. To save time, he force-burned triple the soul power to summon the Star Steed, Crimson Flame Dragon Colt. "Star Soul Construct," he roared, as a pillar of light slammed down from the heavens. In moments, a majestic warhorse materialized beneath Lu Bu. "The rift came early, because of me. If my actions can change history, then I must save them." Asan's eyes lingered on the beast. Envy flickered in her gaze. "I can't summon it yet. So why can he? Could it be tied to Zhuai of the Academy? Taiyuan's intel says Zhuai could mimic other Star Soul generals. Is this man the wielder of Zhuai? Song Yunxiang, wait. Miloon's target this time. It's connected to Zhuai. Be careful." Yunxiang gave a short nod. "Thanks." Then he leapt skyward, vanishing into the clouds. At the same time, within Yuanding City's western district, battle raged in bloody chaos. The 5th Squad of the City Guard fought side by side with Academy disciples, struggling to hold back the beast tide, but the situation was dire. Of the hundreds who started, only a handful still stood, surrounded by monsters. One after another, soldiers were dragged away, torn apart in a frenzy of claws and fangs. Instructor Gua Yuani faltered for just a moment and was slammed to the ground. Before he could recover, a beast's fist came crashing down. Just as death loomed, a radiant pillar of light speared through the monster's chest. When the dust cleared, everyone saw it clearly. An enormous halberd, the legendary Fangtian war halberd. At that moment, the thunder of hooves grew louder from afar. With a sweep of Yunxiang's arm, the Fangtian halberd burst into starlight and reformed solidly in his grip. One man and one steed then charged straight into the beast horde. Explosions ripped across the battlefield, and monsters that once inspired terror fell like paper before his onslaught. The defenders could only gape in disbelief. "He's way too strong." After clearing the last of the beasts, Yunxiang released his armament and said calmly, "There's no need to panic. I'm just a passerby. But the banner of Tiandu must never fall. Tiandu will prevail." Hearing that rallying cry, the survivors' blood boiled as they shouted in unison. Spotting a wounded girl barely clinging to life, Yunxiang crouched beside her. You're lucky you ran into me. I'll take your soul talisman as payment for saving you. He slipped her a pill, then carried her over to the remaining fighters. Wait, aren't you a student of our academy? Which class are you from? Someone called. Yunxiang didn't look back, only tossed them a vial of pills. Named Song Yunxiang. Just happened to pass by. With that, he summoned the dragon colt once more and galloped toward another battlefield. The rescued girl etched his name deeply into her heart. Along the way, Yunxiang cut down every beast in his path with unstoppable might, fully displaying Lu Bu's unmatched warlord power. But this scene did not go unnoticed. An old man muttered, "Interesting, just a mere yellow rank peak yet." Meanwhile, in the academy's command room, Dean Gusher received a report. A mysterious warrior had joined the fight at the 3 o'clock position. At 4 and 5 o'clock as well, sightings of a mounted Star Soul general had been confirmed. Soon after, Yunxiang reached the academy's core. His target was none other than the Soul Jade of Zhuxiai. He vaulted high, landing on the statue's shoulder. The Star Lord system flared, forcibly pulling. As his hand stretched forward, the jade was drawn out. Cracks split across the statue's head. "Come out!" Yunxiang roared, pouring in more power. Finally, the soul jade broke free and dropped into his palm. But the system warned it could not copy Zhuxi's data. It could only store the jade until a proper wielder was found. Yunxiang let out a weary sigh. With the jade secured, it was time to rescue the instructors and classmates still locked in battle. At that moment, a girl was slammed to the ground by a beast. The monster's maw gaped wide, snapping down toward her. But the very next second, a barrage of fierce attacks rained down. Yunxiang's mech slammed down from the sky. To avoid drawing too much attention, he switched into the student model Wei Yuan mech he had taken earlier. But its gear was garbage. The attacks barely scratched the beasts. So he summoned the Star Lord system, forging Lu Bu's Fangtian halberd on its own. With weapon in hand, he charged straight into the horde. One sweeping strike split a monster clean in half. After a few brief words, Yunxiang dashed off toward the next battlefield. At that moment, inside the academy dorm sector, a few students and instructors had formed a tortoise-shell formation, barely holding on. But elite class student Shangguan Yinqin chose to strike back head-on. In battle, she looked almost possessed. Darting with such speed, she briefly had the upper hand. But one slip left her open, and a beast's attack landed. More creatures swarmed in, trapping her at the center. Just as danger closed in, Yunxiang flashed onto the scene, cutting down monsters like weeds, another textbook hero's rescue. Yinqin's heart raced, her face flushed inside the cockpit. "He's way too handsome. No, I can't stay down like a dog. I have to stand up." Then Yunxiang walked over and helped her up. "Can you still fight?" "I can, thank you, Song Yunxiang." Even her mech's display seemed to blush. From a distance, someone shouted, "Hey, big guy with a massive weapon. Quit stalling and get over here to back us up." Yunxiang leapt high into the air, diving straight into another pack of beasts. With a storm of strikes, half the monsters around him were torn apart within seconds. The pressure on the instructors eased instantly, and they launched their counterattack. With everyone fighting together, the tide began to turn in their favor. But then, a warning echoed inside Yunxiang's mech. Soul force materials low, armament disengaging. His soul meridians had only just been patched up, and at yellow rank peak, relying on the Wei Yuan model alone meant he had at best 10 minutes left. As the last beast collapsed, Yunxiang's soul power bottomed out, and his mech dissolved away. When the others saw his face, shock rippled across the group. It's him? That first-year failure, the so-called 3-minute quick boy, Song Yunxiang. At the same time, inside the command room, Dean Gu Shijing narrowed her eyes. Wasn't he supposed to be a cripple with defective meridians? Once this beast tide is over, I want him brought in and questioned immediately. With the threat temporarily gone, the others also dismissed their armaments. But tension still hung heavy. No one knew when the next wave would hit. Everyone was rushing to recover their soul force. Shangguan Yinqin stepped up to Yunxiang, her voice soft and shy as she whispered her thanks. Song Yunxiang's eyes flickered with surprise at the mention of her name. He remembered clearly. In his past life, Shangguan Yinqin had been the wielder of the Star Soul General, Longju. During the final battle between Tiandu and Maloon, The Shangwan family betrayed Tiandu at the last moment. This crazy woman had been his enemy, trapping him in life-or-death situations more than once. If not for sheer luck, he would have died at her hands. With that thought, Yunxiang suddenly grabbed her hand. Star-Lord system. Copy her Star Soul General, Longju. Once copied, he could finish her off and eliminate a dangerous enemy ahead of time. But to Yunxiang, his firm grit meant something else entirely. Her cheeks flushed. He's holding my hand. Is he confessing? But father said our family only accepts son-in-laws. Would Junior Song agree to marry into our clan? The system's response shattered her fantasy. Copy failed. Target does not contain Longju's data. Yunxiang instantly recalled. She was supposed to obtain Longju's soul jade 10 months later during a secret realm expedition. Flustered, he quickly let go of her hand. Based on his past life, she had a survival trump card even without his help. Not only could he not kill her now, he had to make sure she survived long enough to get Longju. With that thought, he produced a pill and handed it to her. When the others saw the Tier 5 Soul Renewal pill, they were dumbstruck. Too generous. Shangwan Yunxiang swallowed it down. A soft moan escaped her lips as the effects surged through her body. Rich, gentle soul force not only refilled her instantly, but overflowed like crashing waves. Nothing she had taken before even compared. This was a supreme-grade pill. Yunxiang casually followed up by casting a Tier 4 Soul Gathering Array. Within the formation, recovery speed skyrocketed to more than 5 times the norm. Gasps of astonishment echoed around once more. Rest well, everyone. I'll head to the training grounds to check the situation. With that, Yunxiang summoned his mech. He leapt high, soaring into the air. Wait, I'm coming with you. Yunxiang, unwilling to be left behind, activated her soul card. In a flash, she vanished from sight as well. Meanwhile, at the Academy's central grounds, instructors and students were retreating in a grueling fight. They relied on the terrain to chip away at stragglers among the beasts. But soon the monsters changed tactics, switching to ranged attacks. Boom! Blinding beams rained down on the crowd. The defenders were caught off guard, their earlier advantage wiped out. Before they could regroup, the beasts launched yet another assault. The Wei Yuan-class shields were useless against such attacks. Just when despair was about to crush them, a blazing light streaked across their vision. Song Yunxiang had arrived. He swung the Fangtian halberd, drawing the beast's attention. With another sweep, the halberd reformed solidly in his grasp. He poured soul force into his legs. His figure wove nimbly between enemy attacks. Closing the distance in a blink, he split a beast clean in two. Within moments, more than a dozen monsters were slain. Only then did Shangwan Yunxiang rush to catch up. Yunxiang dismissed his armament, smiling as he greeted the two instructors. Instructor O, Instructor Chung, it's been a while. Instructor O glared at him, puzzled. Kid, where have you been these past few days? No, wait. How the hell were you that strong just now? Chung Yi followed up, equally doubtful. Weren't your soul meridians crippled? You were supposed to last only 3 minutes in a fight. Why pretend to be injured and hide your true strength since the day you enrolled? We appreciate the help, but you owe us an explanation. Faced with their questioning, Song Yunxiang was momentarily at a loss for words. Then, a thunderous roar cut through the air. Everyone looked up. A majestic mech plummeted from the sky. With a deafening crash, it slammed into the ground. As the armor disengaged, the figure of the dean emerged. She strode straight towards Song Yunxiang. With a single gesture, she activated the mountain guard array, raising a soundproof barrier. Yunxiang remained calm, ready to refuse on the grounds of privacy. But the shrewd dean already had her theory. You've been faking weakness, sneaking into Jiwu Academy through family ties. Your true aim is Zuasi's soul jade, isn't it? Stepping closer, her presence pressed against him, making Yunxiang uneasy. She studied his expression and grew even more convinced. Stop pretending. That red Lubu we saw, it was you, using Zuasi's special mimicry powers to fake the appearance. According to Tiandu records, Zuasi could not only mimic other Star Soul generals, but also imitate their skills and conceal a Soul Master's true power. With that, she dispelled the barrier, letting everyone hear her words. Yunxiang froze. Her reasoning was so airtight, even he almost believed it himself. He hadn't planned on hiding the Star-Lord system forever, but since she had mistaken it for Zhuxi's power, why not let Zhuxi take the blame? With a wave of his hand, he declared, "Fine, no more hiding. You're right. I did obtain Zhuxi's soul jade." Gasps erupted. "So it's true. Your grandfather must have known you were compatible with Zhuxi's soul jade and arranged for you to infiltrate Jiwu Academy to seize it. But by exposing your power during this beast tide, you revealed your hand. And make no mistake, what your Song family did violates the Star Soul general management laws of Tiandu. Treason charges wouldn't be out of the question." Yunxiang opened his mouth to explain, but Gu Shijing cut him off. "Why don't we strike a deal instead? This beast tide, it's too coordinated. We've identified 3 suspected devices fueling it. I've already sent a Heaven Tier Master to the East District. I'll handle the South. I need you to head to the North. You don't have to suppress it completely. Just rescue one person for me." Yunxiang's heart tightened. Whoever it was, they had to be important. Gu Shijing confirmed. "Correct. I need you to save the second prince of Tiandu, Tian Zihai." Yunxiang knew the name well. The second prince, a hardliner of the royal family, was infamous as a war fanatic who pushed for open conflict with Milun. In his past life, rumor had it Tian Zihai died during this very beast tide. The official story blamed Taiyuan assassins, which led to Asan's wanted status. But Yunxiang knew Asan wasn't the killer. Gu Shijing set her terms. "Save the prince, and I'll make sure Jiwu Academy petitions for your legal ownership of Zhuxi's soul jade. On top of that, I'll grant you one more favor within my authority as dean." With conditions laid out like that, Yunxiang had no reason to refuse. Forget it. Time to join the chaos and see for myself. Star-Lord system. Summon the Crimson Flame Dragon Horse, Star Soul Construct. At his command, a mighty warhorse materialized beneath him, exuding a fiery aura. Just as Song Yunxiang was about to charge off, Shangguan Yinqin followed. Learning he possessed Zhuxi only deepened her resolve to make him the Shangguan family son-in-law. With a graceful leap, she landed right behind him on the saddle. "Hold tight. If you fall, I'm not picking you up." The next moment, the warhorse vanished with a thunderous boom, disappearing from sight. Elsewhere, the royal guards, once 100 strong, were reduced to a handful of bloodied survivors. Even Lu Xinwu, a heaven-tier warrior, was barely clinging to life. Prince Tian Zihai looked at him, guilt flooding his eyes. Had Lu not shielded him with his own life, he would already be dead in Milun's trap. The beasts pressed forward again. From the smoke loomed a colossal silhouette. It was the same heaven-tier fiend that had appeared in other battle zones, the Qiongqi. At that moment, Song Yunxiang arrived. But as a peak royal tier, defeating a heaven-tier monster was all but impossible. To buy time, he infused his Fang Tian halberd with formation power, forcing a barricade across Qiongqi's path. Meanwhile, he sent Shangguan Yinqin to extract rift crystals from fallen beasts. By the time he was about to collapse, she returned, clutching 3 glowing crystals. Yunxiang seized them and charged straight at Qiongqi. As he closed in, he launched himself high into the air. Crimson Flame Dragon Horse, Star Soul Construct, Fang Tian halberd, return. At his shout, the halberd on the ground shattered into starlight, reforming solidly in his grip. With no barrier left, Qiongqi opened its maw and unleashed a ranged blast. Yunxiang twisted his body aside, barely evading the strike. Missing its mark, the beast stomped down and propelled itself skyward in a single leap. Lu Bu's phantom surged forward, halberd in hand, to meet the assault. Their collision sent shockwaves ripping through the battlefield. Yunxiang was hurled away, smashing through several buildings before finally stopping. But his goal was already achieved. Detonate. At his command, the rift crystals he had planted beside Qiongqi began to quake violently. A heartbeat later, they erupted, filling the air with a deafening explosion. Soon, the smoke cleared, revealing Qiongqi's half-vanished palm. "Sorry, I'm no match for a heaven tier yet. Had to rely on some dirty tricks." Tian Zihai's eyes lit up with awe. Brilliant! Infusing soul force into rift crystals, overloading them to cause a localized space collapse. What a wild maneuver. The beast, though wounded, recovered and clashed with Lu Bu once more. Yunxiang knew his current realm couldn't sustain a construct strong enough to match a heaven tier head-on. He had only one option left. He seized a crystal and hurled it straight into Qiongqi's gaping maw. At the cost of his arm, he rammed it deep inside. Gritting his teeth through the pain, he muttered, "Detonate." In an instant, violet lightning raced across the beast's body. With a thunderous boom, Qiongqi turned into a blinding sphere of light. Meanwhile, atop a nearby skyscraper, a group of masked operatives was setting up strange equipment. Realizing their mission had failed, they moved to retreat. But Old Master appeared before them without warning. Panic spread among the group. Some scrambled to summon their mechs for a desperate stand. The next second, they were all stomped unconscious by a single kick. He snatched up one survivor and strode away. On another battlefield, legions of armored soldiers swarmed Qiongqi. Under sheer numbers and relentless firepower, the beast finally collapsed with an earth-shaking crash. The crowd erupted in triumphant roars. A heaven-tier beast is nothing. We could slay 10 more. Dingu Shijing kept her expression calm. Though inside, she was drenched in cold sweat. She knew full well how terrifying a heaven tier was. Victory through mass assault came only with heavy sacrifice. Just then, Old Master descended from the sky, offering a casual greeting. The Dean immediately released her mech and bowed respectfully. "This one I caught near the rift in East District, a spy from Ilu Nation. The city guard and the secret bureau are likely already compromised. I'm entrusting him to you." After giving his orders, Old Master turned to leave. But he froze, suddenly aware of a chilling gaze fixed on him. The moment Old Master turned his head, the enemies on the distant rooftop realized they'd been exposed. "Need me to take care of those pests for you?" "No need. I've already arranged it." Before the words even faded, a dagger pierced straight through an enemy's mech. The rest were instantly trapped by a soul-binding net dropping from the sky. Once the enemies were subdued, the aide stowed his weapons. "Report to the Dean. 5 targets fully secured." Dean Gu Shijing nodded in satisfaction. Seeing the situation under control, Old Master waved his hand. "I'll head to the North District. There's a youngster there who interests me." With that, he leapt skyward, vanishing into the air. At the same time, Yunxiang dispelled his construct and turned to greet the second prince. Tian Zihai bowed with solemn fists, thanking him for the rescue. After a brief introduction, Yunxiang stepped forward. His brows furrowed when he saw Lu Shenwu on the brink of death. To Tian Zihai's shock, Yunxiang poured an entire bottle of tear, 5 pills, into Lu's mouth. The surge of potent medicine quickly pulled Lu back from the edge. Just then, Shengwan Yinxin arrived. Since her elder brother, Shengwan Hanshun, served under Tian Zihai, she showed the prince great respect. After some polite exchanges, Yunxiang prepared to take his leave. Inwardly, he resolved to return home as soon as possible. In his past life, both the Mech Martial Academy and Yuanding City were destroyed in this very beast tide. He had fled south with refugees, detouring through the Death Desert, spending over 20 days to finally reach the Song clan. But less than a month later, the southern border garrisoned by the Songs was swallowed by an even larger tide. His grandfather, siblings, and the soldiers all perished. Helpless, he fled alone once again, until that female teacher saved him. 2 months remain. This time it's not too late. His gaze suddenly sharpened. He lashed out with a fierce kick toward a nearby shadow. But in the next instant, a hand caught his foot and an aged voice rumbled. "Kid, you're more interesting than I thought." Everyone around tensed instantly. The old man spoke calmly. "You've hidden yourself well in the academy." He hadn't expected someone at Mere Yellow Peak to sense the aura of a half-saint. As the haze dispersed, Yunxiang recognized the figure. It was none other than the gatekeeper Old Master of the academy. Yunxiang immediately bowed deeply. Su Hemming, first of the 3 swords of Nanzhou. At 30, he had already stepped into Heaven Tier, sweeping the eastern continent with his famed technique one sword to shatter rivers and mountains. For a single promise, he once rode alone for thousands of miles to aid the northern front, felling 3 airborne warships with one strike. It's said he reached Heaven Tier perfection more than 20 years ago, but the step to Saint Tier remains an unbreakable wall. From then on, he wandered the mortal world, seeking the slightest chance to break through to Saint Tier. Yet he never succeeded. At Heaven Tier Perfection, he earned the title Half-Saint. Hearing Lu Xinwu's introduction, everyone around bowed with respect. Yunxiang's mind raced. In his past life, a cultivation system for saints had already been created. Even a cripple like him had reached Saint Tier. If he could train an entire army of saints now, wouldn't they crush this entire era? And right before him, wasn't Su Lao the perfect test subject? Sensing the boy's burning gaze, old Su shivered inside, wondering if he was scheming something. Yunxiang quickly flattered him, insisting it was only admiration. Brat, drop the act. Who already told me? You're Zwitzy's chosen host, aren't you? A host, meant a soul master personally chosen by a Star Soul general. The revelation left everyone stunned. Su Lao then asked if it was truly Yunxiang who had slain the Heaven Tier beast, curious how he had leapt across 3 whole realms to do it. Yunxiang casually recounted detonating the rift crystals against Xiongqi, and how he carved arrays into the crystals to trigger spatial collapse. He wasn't worried about imitation. No one in this era could possibly replicate it. Mid-sentence, Yunxiang suddenly sensed enemies closing in. Su Lao probed the surroundings and realized they were surrounded. What shocked him even more was that Yunxiang had detected the dangerous step earlier. Everyone quickly closed ranks, taking defensive stances. In the next instant, countless shadowy figures appeared atop the surrounding buildings. A squad leader sneered as he dispelled the concealment array. So we've been spotted? No matter. All units drop stealth. Kill Tian Zahai, second prince of Tiandu. Begin the operation. The crushing aura rolling off him stunned everyone present. Yunxiang tossed Su Lao a pill and strode forward. Su Lao caught it, his eyes widening in disbelief. At the leader's command, the ambushers all pulled their triggers. In an instant, a storm of energy beams roared toward them. But as the smoke cleared, those inside Yunxiang's array stood untouched. Yunxiang leapt high, breaking free of the formation. Su Lao, keep those 2 safe. I'll deal with the fodder. Commander Lu, that Heaven Tier captain's mech is yours. At once, Lu Xinwu vaulted into the air. He roared, Star Soul Construct. His mech manifested with a surge of spirit power. The Miloon leader scoffed. A useless golden paint job and flashy decorations. No wonder Tiandu rotted from within, drowning in such shallow vanity. Before he finished, their weapons clashed violently, sparks exploding in all directions. Lu Xinwu shot back without hesitation, mocking that the enemy's mech looked like a giant crab. At that moment, an enemy lurked in the shadows, trying to ambush. The next second, Lu Bu's halberd pierced him clean through. The surrounding enemies scrambled, raising their weapons to fire. But Lu Bu surged forward in an instant. One mech was split clean in 2. He blurred into an afterimage, striking another. Bang! Another kill in the blink of an eye. Still, Yunxiang was starting to feel the strain. These Ufoluo mechs were far heavier in armor, and the realm gap made the fight tougher. He swallowed a few pills, stepped into the air, and launched into the fray again. Tian Zahai instantly recognized the technique, 7 steps of void walking, a martial art reserved only for elite black armor guards. Their current commander, Dylan, was one of the 8 generals of Tiandu and a Saint Tier powerhouse. Yet Dylan had always upheld loyalty above all. For more than a decade, he'd never had dealings with the Song family. Yunxiang now soared high into the air. Spirit power condensed into a shockwave, crashing down. Several mechs were cleaved in half at once. Tian Zahai's eyes widened. That was Commander D's signature technique, Falling Moon Slash. The force behind Song Yunxiang was far greater than he had imagined. With protective layers around them, those on the ground were relatively safe for the moment. Even stray attacks were intercepted by the array. Old Su couldn't help praising aloud. The outer shield scatters the beams with a lens, while the inner barrier absorbs the shock with just a trace of spirit power. Brilliant! This boy's array work has already surpassed the limits of this era. In the distance, 2 mechs, seeing ranged attacks fail, crept closer for melee. Just as they closed in, Fang Tian halberd flashed down, killing one instantly. But the other had already raised its blade, snarling, "Die first, you old bastard!" With both hands, he swung down hard. When the smoke cleared, cold sweat drenched him. Old Su stood there, casually gripping the blade with one bare hand. He muttered coldly, "Degenerate times attacking an unarmed elder." Then, like lightning, he leapt upward. With a light kick, the mech's massive arm shattered piece by piece. He followed with a single strike, cleaving the other shoulder clean off. The onlookers couldn't hold back their exclamations. Holy crap. Meanwhile, the duel between two heaven-tier warriors was reaching its climax. Lu Shenwu's dragon-tail whip strike blasted the enemy leader hundreds of meters away. The man froze in disbelief. Wounded as he was, why did his opponent seem even stronger than before? Not only had the target Lu Bu appeared, but there was also a half-saint standing beside him. With a thud, he dropped to his knees, bowing low. "Sacred Envoy, I beg for your aid." At his cry, a shadowed figure on a distant rooftop finally revealed herself. Up close, it was a woman in a bull-headed mask, her chest full and generous, her figure strikingly alluring. Her name was Manluo, an inspector of the Pingtian sacred sect, and herself a half-saint. Tian Zahai, seeing the mask, instantly recognized her as one of the demon sect. Elder Su's expression grew solemn. No wonder they call her a demonic witch of the cult, an omen of great disaster. The Pingtian sect, also known as the demon cult, controlled half of Malun Nation's military and political power. On the eastern continent, there were 3 nations. At the very top stood 2 god-rank elders, each over 4 centuries old. One seated in Malun, the other in Shishui. Though Tiandu had no god rank, it barely maintained the balance through a number of saint rank experts greater than both nations combined. And Pingtian itself had been founded by Milun's 400-year-old god rank ancestor, the Pingtian Patriarch. At that moment, Manluo pulled a crimson soul card from her chest. Star Soul Construct. With her shout, countless crimson beams surged around her. But just as they were about to take form, the glow suddenly collapsed. In the same instant, an explosion thundered where Lu Shenwu stood. When the smoke cleared, he was sprawled on the ground, unconscious. Manluo's figure flickered, darting straight toward her next target. Elder Su quickly drew his own soul card. A heartbeat later, their weapons slammed together with a deafening crash. The shockwave blasted nearby, matched off their feet. Even the protective formation shattered to pieces in an instant. Luckily, Song Yunxiang rushed in time to pull both men out of harm's way. Manluo feigned retreat, slipping back to create distance. Then, with a sudden flick, she hurled 2 weapons forward. "Careful!" Elder Su shouted a warning to Song Yunxiang. At the last critical moment, Yunxiang unleashed the 7 steps of star treading, narrowly escaping the strike. Seizing on Su's distraction, Manluo darted in close for a sneak attack. With a resounding boom, she blasted him hundreds of meters back. Su barely had time to steady himself, when Manluo instantly reappeared behind him. Her weapon came chopping down toward his skull. Su snapped his head back just in time, evading by a hair's breadth. He countered with a swift horizontal slash of his broken sword. But Manluo's speed was overwhelming. She blurred behind him once more. Soul force surged into her leg as she lashed out with a brutal kick. Boom! The impact sent Elder Su flying again. The next second, Manluo was already upon him, weapon raised for the kill. As she was about to close in, Old Su seized the moment and unleashed his ultimate move. Demonis, taste this sword of mine. This strike was meant for a saint. It's called Blazing Godfire. With a shout, a violent sword aura shot skyward, then crashed down like a blazing meteor. Manluo had nowhere to run. The strike locked onto her and hit dead on. Countless buildings on the ground collapsed under the shockwave. When the smoke cleared, only a wasteland of rubble remained. Yet to everyone's shock, Manluo had endured it. No wonder she was half a step into the saint realm. Even with a battered mech, she could still withstand that blow. She licked her lips, sneering. "Fine, I didn't want to use this, but you forced me. Activate Heaven Demon Disassembly Mode." At her command, the shattered mech reassembled itself. "In this mode, I'm beyond half-saint. Call me a quasi-saint," she declared with manic laughter. Old Su said nothing, just gasping for breath, clearly drained. The next second, Manluo vanished. When she reappeared, she was right at his side. A massive impact slammed into Su, his eyes unable to track her movements. She blinked again, flashing behind him. Another strike came crashing down. Su was battered back and forth like a toy ball. When she finally tired of toying with him, her weapon pierced clean through his body. She grabbed his head and hacked down mercilessly. Old Su collapsed, completely stripped of his strength. His mech shattered into fragments and dissolved. With a heavy crash, his body hit the ground. Manluo raised the mech's severed head high, savoring it. This power intoxicating. Slaughtering a half-saint is like butchering a dog. Even a true saint wouldn't scare me now. Her laughter echoed wildly. But was Su truly defeated? He spat a mouthful of blood. Just before he lost consciousness, his trembling hand reached into his pocket. He pulled out the 6-star pill Song Yunxiang had given him, the Transcendence Pill. It could raise one full realm temporarily for anyone below Earth rank. It was one of Yunxiang's trump cards prepared for him. Though its effect was diminished at half-saint level, it would still push him up a notch for a short time. Elder Su gazed at the legendary pill he had only ever seen recorded in ancient texts. Without hesitation, he swallowed it whole. A favor like this, I truly owe a great debt now. So be it. Let me immerse myself in its power. Moments later, he felt himself drifting within a vast and mysterious starry sky. That reflection, is it me? No, it's the deepest obsession in my heart, the path to saint rank. Memories surged back. Over 30 years ago, at the foot of the 100-zhang walls of Quancheng in Shishui Kingdom, he had suffered a crushing defeat. At 33, Su Heming was still a dashing young man in crimson robes, searching desperately for the woman he loved. Yet, even at mid-heaven rank and with 2 trusted friends beside him, he was utterly helpless. For standing before them was one of the 4 saints of Shishui, the sole general host of Wenzhong, saint rank powerhouse Huang Miaoying. She was also the aunt of his beloved Huang Suni. Huang Suni herself was a once-in-a-century innate host of the royal family, destined to step into the saint rank. But Su Heming, though a prodigy of his era, was nothing more than an ant before true saints. Huang Miaoying had intended to kill them outright, but relented only under Suni's desperate pleas. Humiliated, Su Heming shaved his head that very day and swore an oath. One day, he would return as a saint, shatter those towering walls, and free the woman he loved from the royal cage. Snapping back to reality, golden light surged around him. A saint rank aura swept across the battlefield. So this is the power of a saint? Now I understand why that old woman said, "Below saints, all are ants." His voice lowered. Forgive me, old friend. This power truly surpasses what your body can endure. The next instant, Elder Su unleashed his soul-forged construct. With a roar of golden brilliance, a mighty mech manifested before all eyes. Feeling the overwhelming force, he finally grasped why saints stood so far above the rest. He swung his arm almost lazily. Instantly, a cataclysmic shockwave tore forth. Locked onto the target, Manluo had no chance to dodge, smashed away hundreds of meters with a thunderous crash. Her body slammed into a skyscraper, shattering it apart like paper. Manluo sensed danger and barked the order. Damn it, demon disassembly mode, maximize output. But as she looked up, she froze. At some point, Elder Su was already standing right before her. To cut you down, I no longer need a sword. He raised his arm and swung casually through the air. With a thunderous boom, a 1,000-meter slash tore through the city. The terror of a saint tier revealed itself. Screams drowned beneath the roar of explosions. Manluo's mech was obliterated, reduced to shards. When the smoke cleared, she lay unconscious, bathed in fading light. Elder Su had deliberately held back. Otherwise, she'd have perished along with her machine. At that moment, the effect of the Ultra Realm pill finally burned out. Su dispersed his mech and landed heavily on the ground. The battle was over. Under the Academy's command, Tiandu's city guards had already surrounded the area. Before long, Dingu Shijing arrived with her team. Your Highness was placed in danger. Forgive me for failing to arrive sooner. No matter. Thankfully, this battle ended without disaster. The two exchanged polite words. Meanwhile, Song Yunxiang quietly picked up Manhwa's soul card. He slipped it into his pocket without a sound. Then he helped the weary elder Su sit and rest. Su sighed with regret, saying he was fine, but what a pity to waste such a priceless Ultra Realm pill. If taken in better condition, it might have revealed the key to his breakthrough. How about I give you another one later, so you can find a quiet place to cultivate? What did you say? Elder Su nearly lost his composure. He rushed closer, asking excitedly if the boy truly had another. When Song Yunxiang nodded, Su's face lit with delight. How could I ever repay such a debt? Kid, you know so-called heirs with CI, are you? Song forced an awkward smile. What do you mean by that, Elder? Su sneered. I've roamed the world, tempered myself in countless trials, even braved more than a few secret realms. I know what I see. Then he leaned in with a mischievous grin. Don't worry, I'll erase every trace here and at the academy. You just keep playing the role of Zui Si's successor. Consider that half of your favor repaid. Song feigned panic, realizing the old man was far shrewder than he appeared. Just then, Dean Gu's secretary rushed over. They had found the device responsible for triggering the rift in the Eastern District. The Dean and the second prince had gone to handle it, leaving the two free to return to the academy and rest. Soon, an airship was arranged to escort them away. As they boarded, Song Yunxiang felt a sudden jolt, like he'd forgotten something. A moment later, he shook his head. Forget it. Time to go. In a flash, the vessel turned into a streak of light and vanished into the sky. Back on the ground, Shangguan Yinxin clutched a medical kit, still searching for his figure. 10 days passed quickly, and the city's reconstruction was in full swing. During that time, Song Yunxiang never rested. Now he sat cross-legged in midair, cultivating. Empty medicine bottles littered the ground beneath him. With countless pills and formation support, he had already broken through to the early Earth rank. He wanted to keep pushing forward, but unfortunately his pills were all gone. So he had to contact shopkeeper Hong for another batch. The moment he opened his wrist device, dozens of missed calls and messages popped up. They were from the Dean and Shangguan Yinxin. This Yander Sr. is such a headache, he muttered. With a flick, he tossed her into the blacklist. Then he returned the Dean's call. The line had barely connected when the Dean's roar blasted through, demanding why he had gone off the grid. She then informed him that the workshop had already produced a prototype from the schematics he'd submitted days earlier. He needed to come inspect it immediately. After hanging up, Song Yunxiang stepped out of his dorm. Outside, the reconstruction was in full swing. His chest tightened with emotion. Though Tiandu had suffered heavy losses, at least the teachers and classmates who should have died were still alive. The items he had seized from the assassins sent after Asen, he had already turned over to the second prince, trusting they would prove useful once he returned to Tiandu. As for the spare Ultra Realm pill, he had casually handed it to the old gatekeeper, Elder Su. Passing through the square, he saw two mechs setting up a memorial monument. He had thought after so many brushes with death, he was already numb. But seeing those densely carved names, a pang of sorrow still welled in his chest. Before long, he arrived at the Academy's workshop district. The Dean placed 3 soul cards into his hands. Based on your schematics, we've managed to build these 3. But the other 2 still have unresolved technical issues. She introduced the middle-aged man beside her. This is Manhwa Dengfeng, head engineer of Taishan Heavy Industries Forge in Yunding City. These prototypes were built with his team's help. Hearing the introduction, Song Yunxiang stepped forward and bowed respectfully. But Manhwa Dengfeng was so nervous, he could barely get a word out. Then, with a loud thud, he dropped to his knees, leaving everyone around stunned. Completely bewildered, Song Yunxiang hurried forward to help him up. But Manhwa refused to rise, his voice trembling. Young Master Song, this bow is my thanks for saving our forge that day. Back then, when the factory was surrounded by beasts, it was Yunxiang who had cut a bloody path and drawn their attention away, sparing countless lives. Yunxiang quickly waved it off, saying he didn't deserve such gratitude, urging him to stand. Yet Manhwa still knelt and instead made a shocking plea. Please, accept me as your disciple. The words hit like a thunderclap. The Dean and others around were utterly dumbfounded. Manhwa Dengfeng was a prestigious 4th-rank mech artisan, far above the academy's own instructors. For him to bow like this was unthinkable. Dean Gu Shijing was about to pull him up. Nangwa held out his hand to stop her. From the schematics young Master Song provided alone, his mastery surpasses rank 6. Rank 6. Even I am unworthy to polish his boots. Yunxiang declined with courtesy. I have no plans to take disciples for now. But if you don't mind, let's treat each other as equals. I'll gladly share my design insights with you. Hearing this, Gu Shijing quickly stepped in and helped Nangwa back to his feet. Then Yunxiang drew out a soul card for testing. Star Soul Armament. In a flash, a Wei Yuan class artillery mech materialized before the crowd. Built for long-range firepower, one blast could carve a crater 100 meters wide, its might rivaling the cannons of Sky Dreadnought. Next, Yunxiang tested the other two, the flying sword type and the shield gun type. Though not flawless yet, they were close to his expectations. Just then, his wrist device chimed. It was shopkeeper Hong from the pharmacy, reporting that Yunding Spaceport was operational again and the route to Yongin City had reopened. A ticket was ready for him that very afternoon. Yunxiang's face lit up. Excellent. Many thanks, shopkeeper Hong. One more favor. Prepare another 100 million's worth of spirit herbs from the old list and deliver them to the port before this afternoon. Hearing there was yet another huge order, shopkeeper Hong eagerly agreed. Ending the call, Yunxiang dismissed his armament and turned to Nangwa. Please, lead your engineers to produce as many prototypes as possible in the coming days. Then he looked at Gu Shijing. Dean, please select capable instructors and students best suited to pilot these machines. Gu Shijing frowned, not understanding his intent. Yunxiang explained, I intend to hold you to your earlier promise. About a month from now, the southern frontier may need reinforcements. When that time comes, I hope you'll bring these elites to my side. Gu Shijing's expression changed drastically. She was about to ask more, but Yunxiang cut her off with a wave. Don't ask. I have my own sources. For now, it's only speculation. Once I confirm, you'll be the first to know. The Fifth Academy's rebuilding will keep classes suspended for another 2 months, right? I'll return to Yongin City for now. Farewell. With that, he turned and strode away without looking back. Not long after, in Yunding City's airship terminal, a vessel of the Hong Shipping Company was about to depart. As Song Yunxiang stepped into the hall, a commotion caught his ear. 3 adults with a child were arguing heatedly with the crew over their privilege tickets. His gaze fell on a little girl in a red dress. When he got a clear look at her face, he froze in shock. It's her, it's really her. In his past life, after the beast tide broke out, this girl had fled Yunding City with the refugees. Along the way, scattered beasts struck them again and again, driving the survivors further south into the desert of death. At last, they stumbled across a water source. Yunxiang, exhausted and drowning in guilt, could barely stand. The little girl noticed the soul card in his hand. She walked up cheerfully. Big brother, you're a Star Soul Master, right? Here, take this bun. If you eat, you'll have the strength to summon your mech and protect us. Though starving, Yunxiang shook his head. In his mind, he was worthless, unworthy of such a precious gift. But then his stomach betrayed him with a loud growl. They looked at each other and chuckled, embarrassed. The girl broke the bun in half and offered him a piece. Big brother, you're from Mech Martial Academy, right? I recognize that uniform. Yunxiang said nothing. She kept talking. My sister's a student there too. To help us escape, she and the instructors stayed behind to fight the beasts. They'll be okay, won't they? Tears welled up despite herself. She quickly wiped them away. I'm not crying, I'm strong. I'm Xiao Wan, daughter of a mech engineer. Someday I'll build a mech stronger than the Wei Yuan model and wipe out every last beast. Right then, her stomach rumbled as well. Yunxiang hurriedly muttered that he didn't like carrot-filled buns. Xiaowen scolded him earnestly. You're a Star Soul Master. You can't be picky. You need strength to protect everyone. And carrot filling is healthy. Okay. Come on, eat it. I'll watch to make sure you finish. Song Yunxiang had no choice but to gulp it down hungrily. The girl beamed. When I grow up and become a mech engineer, I'll design a brand new Star Soul mech. And big brother, you'll be my exclusive pilot. Seeing the hope in her eyes, Yunxiang nodded in agreement. It settled then, pinky promise. And a stamp too. Now it's official. With that, she bounced back to her mother. But moments later, a beast burst from beneath the desert sands, charging straight at the refugees. Yunxiang stepped forward, fighting with everything he had. Yet the monster's rampage still left many civilians wounded. When the battle was finally over, he clutched his injured arm and tried to walk away. Then he froze at the sight of two severed arms. They belonged to the girl and her mother. A crushing wave of guilt and grief consumed him. Overhead, a piercing wail split the skies. The memory shattered, replaced by the noise of a heated argument in the present. The man was Tang Jinshui, former development director of Yunding City. Because he had resigned, regulations barred him from leaving until next week. His wife, Shen Dai, urged him to let it go. Just then, their niece, Shen Ruowei, stepped forward, showing her Star Soul Master credentials. The attendant replied that students of the Mech Martial Academy could board, but only alone, not with family. The air grew tense. At that moment, Yunxiang strode over. "I'll take them in. That should be fine, right?" He produced a Supreme card. The attendants gawked, then quickly ushered them inside with deep respect. Tang Jinshui's family hurried after him. As a fellow Academy student, Shen Ruowei immediately recognized Song Yunxiang. And after all, he had saved her life in the last battle. They were escorted to the top-level Sky Pavilion Suite. The lavish interior left Tang Jinshui in stunned awe. Inside the hall, shopkeeper Hong was already waiting. Seeing them arrive, he stepped forward to greet them warmly. Yunxiang cupped his fists in return. After brief introductions, the two of them entered a private room together. "Young Master Song, here are the spirit herbs you requested, all stored inside this talisman." "Thanks. I'll transfer the payment later." Shopkeeper Hong chuckled, saying it could be any time. With business done, he excused himself. "Oh, a personal attendant will come by shortly. Have a pleasant journey." With that, he pressed the elevator button. Soon, the elevator chimed again. A maid stepped out, her long ears instantly setting her apart. She knelt respectfully and introduced herself as Xiaoming, saying she would handle any service they needed. Yunxiang noticed the slave collar beneath her scarf. She was a member of the Demonkin race, something he hadn't seen in over 30 years. In his past life, after the fall of Tindu City, he had been dragged into a space rift. The chaotic currents had carried him to the southern continent, deep within Demonkin territory. Demonkin and spirit folk were minority races. Because their dual soul meridians were innately unstable, becoming Star Soul Masters was nearly impossible, and summoning a Star Soul General was rarer still. In the human-dominated East Continent, they were branded as inferior and enslaved for generations. Yet in the South, where Demonkin and spirit folk lived together in harmony, humans were the true rarity, mentioned only a handful of times in old records. Unlike the East, there was no mass production technology for Star Soul Generals. Rifts and beast tides were almost unheard of. The last recorded beast tide had struck 5 centuries ago. During his time there, Yunxiang learned the Demonkin's unique body-forging arts and the spirit folk's masterful alchemy. Later, he was even defeated by the Battle Fist lineage and taken in as a personal disciple of their ancestor. That ancestor had once been one of the few Demonkin hosts of the Star Soul General. Sadly, his general was sealed away in a 5-elements formation 500 years ago. At the time, Yunxiang lacked formation skills and missed his chance to replicate it. "Young Master Song, are you all right?" Xiaoming's voice pulled him back. Rubbing his eyes, he said he was fine, just lost in memories. "Bring me the menu." Moments later, Yunxiang flipped through it and asked Tang Jinshui's group what they'd like. Little Tang Xiaowen raised her hand immediately. "I want steamed buns." Her mother Shindai quickly covered her mouth and apologized. "It's fine. Then let's have buns, 5 servings." Xiaoming explained they weren't on the menu. Yunxiang handed her a storage card. "Take this. If there aren't any, have the chef make them. And make sure mine are radish-filled. If you can't, go ashore and buy them." Xiaoming accepted the card and agreed at once. She hurried off toward the kitchen. Meanwhile, Xiaowen walked to the window. Gazing outside, she exclaimed how beautiful the view was. "Want to take a closer look? I'll bring you," Yunxiang said, striding over. In the cabin opposite, A girl named Naira was also staring at the scenery. The courtyard garden beneath the sunset looked like a painting brought to life. Hey, let's go check it out over there. Okay. Vague toyed with his soul card and answered lazily. Go? Man, I'd rather not move. But Naira pouted and begged, and he couldn't refuse, so he followed her out. They'd barely reached the garden entrance when a guard stopped them. For safety, this gate closes while we depart. It'll reopen once sailing is steady. On hearing that, Naira immediately threw a tantrum. She insisted on going out. Vague soothed her. Don't fuss. We can come back later. At that moment, Xiaoming rushed in from the courtyard holding freshly pulled radishes. The gate opened, and she bumped straight into Naira. The radishes tumbled from her arms and scattered across the ground. Ignoring her own pain, Xiaoming rushed to apologize. But in the next instant, a whooshing sound cut the air. A boot came swinging for her neck. With a brutal thud, Xiaoming was slammed through the gate and crashed into the courtyard. Vague's expression hardened. He sneered, "Lowly demonkin slave. How dare you touch the noble lady, Samerlin? Demonkin survive only under human protection. Nothing but scum." With that, he stomped the radishes to pulp. Xiaoming crawled over, pleading and begging him to stop as she pressed her forehead to the ground. "You filthy thing! How dare you touch me?" Before she could finish, he kicked her in the stomach. "Demonkin trash, go die." A flurry of blows rained down. A guard moved to intervene, but Naira held him back. Vague's family was killed by Demonkin's servants. When he sees cat-eared servants, he loses control. The atmosphere froze. Everyone around fell silent. Just a lowly Demonkin slave. If she dies, we'll pay the price. Die, you wretch. Vague raised his fist, ready to finish Xiaoming. But before he could strike, Song Yunxiang grabbed his arm. Vague froze in shock. What? Who's there? Someone strong enough to completely restrain a cultivator of the profound rank. Song Yunxiang frowned. She's my personal maid from warehouse number 1 on Sky Street. Damn it. Who the hell do you think you are? Vague blustered, masking his fear with bravado. Let go of me, or I won't hold back. With that, he whipped out his soul card. Tension flared, seconds from a fight. Naira rushed in, bowing. Forgive us, young master. Here, 50,000 lower domain coins. Enough to buy a used maid. Take it as our apology for this rash moment. Will that satisfy you, senior? Song Yunxiang accepted the card, though anger still burned. Now wasn't the time to press further. Both Vague and Naira bowed again in apology. Then, without another word, they turned and hurried away. By their skin tone and the way they saluted, Song Yunxiang instantly recognized them as people of the lower domain. The lower domain lay southwest of Tiandu, a loose confederation of tribal chieftains. In his past life, Milun had joined hands with the Taiha remnants and the lower domain to strike Tiandu. Tiandu in turn allied with the Dragon Sea Kingdom, led by Demonkin clans like the Merfolk. Among them, the Huiyan clan of the lower domain bore a blood feud with the Lan royal family of Dragon Sea. Their sole generals had clashed for generations, oil and water. Because of Dragonsia's deterrence, he had never seen the lower domain's armies on the battlefield until Tiandu's final war. The lower domain bordered Demonkin settlements, and slave hunting was one of its core industries. Captured Demonkin were traded as livestock to every nation. To them, Demonkin slaves were just merchandise without dignity. Song Yunxiang thought to himself, if I hadn't lived among Demonkin for so many years in the South Continent, I probably wouldn't care this much either. He pulled out a pill. Can you move? Open your mouth. Xiaoming waved frantically, shaking her head. This precious medicine. It must be worth more than my life. She forced a grin. Honestly, young master, us cat-eared folk are tough. Heh, I was faking earlier. Getting beaten like that. I've been used to it since childhood. Before she could finish, Song Yunxiang seized her by the chin. Ignoring her protests, he shoved the pill into her mouth. Don't overthink it. Just a simple rejuvenation pill. I've got plenty of those. With that, he turned and headed back into the cabin. Just then, a gentle melody drifted in from the courtyard. Song Yunxiang looked toward the source in surprise. There, a woman in flowing traditional robes was playing a stringed instrument. It's her, one of Tiandu's future 4 divas, Miss Jinghua. Memories stirred within him. Back when he served in the Black Armor Guard, he had been one of her die-hard fans. 3 years later, she'd rise to become a national treasure. I still remember many of her songs, even now. To think the rumor was true, that she once worked as a resident singer for Hong Shipping. Before long, departure time arrived. The massive airship slowly lifted into the sky. With a deep rumble, the entire vessel shook violently. Fortunately, Song Yunxiang's chamber had protective arrays carved into it and remained steady. The pills are just about ready. Gifts for the old master and shares for my brothers and sisters in the Song clan, all prepared. Satisfied, he put away his tools. With his current cultivation, refining 8-star pills was still a stretch. He opened the door and stepped out. Tang Xiaowen quickly patted the seat beside her, inviting him to sit. "Seatbelt on, big brother. What are you doing?" Song Yunxiang chuckled softly, sending a message home, telling them I'm on my way back. Home. It's been so long since I've said that word. As he buckled his belt, the airship roared and surged forward into the distance. Meanwhile, in the Song family's marquee of Jian Estate in Yong'an City, Steward Song Mu hurried to the old master with news. Young master will arrive by noon tomorrow. Overjoyed, the patriarch Song Jingzhong clapped his hands. Good. Go greet him yourself, and inform Song Jin, Song Hua, the eldest, second, fourth branches, and even little she-girl. They're all to come back for dinner tomorrow night. Send word to Yinjin as well. Tell her to dispatch 2 Sky Guard battleships from the army to escort Yinxiang's vessel. Yes, my lord. I'll see to it once. Song Mu accepted the order and hurried off to make arrangements. In his study, the old master sighed as he gazed at a family photo album. Yunxiang, not only did his crippled soul veins suddenly heal, but he seems to have gained tremendous strength. My dear daughter-in-law, could it really be just as you predicted? Soon after, Song Yunxiang's airship settled into steady flight. In the first-class cabin, Xiaoming rolled in the evening meal. Thanks to the pills, her wounds had fully healed, and she even felt healthier than before. By the way, the music and dance performance in the atrium is about to begin. After finishing dinner, Xiaoming led Yunxiang and his group to the performance hall. The seats for cabin 1 were in the center of the front row, the supreme section. To the left sat Zhang Dagui, the second young master of the Zhang clan from Central State. To the right were Nyla and Weiga. As everyone settled, the host stepped onto the stage. Honored guests, please enjoy our troupe's newest production. Adapted from the great victory at Yuanding City, based on the true story of a lone hero who turned the tide, the Battle of Yuanding City series. One rider against the Horde. Hearing this, Song Yunxiang felt a chill, an ominous premonition. On stage, an actor stumbled forward, shouting for help. A swarm of Taotai beasts rushed in from all sides. Several Wei Yuan soldiers appeared, shockingly siding with the monsters. Just as the soldiers were slammed into the ground, Star Generals with CI made a dazzling entrance. The audience erupted in cheers. Infinite transformations. Change, change, change. In a flash, Zhuai transformed into the legendary General Lu Bu. Lu Bu charged forth, riding a wooden horse and wielding his Fangtian halberd against the horde. Zhang Dagui's eyes sparkled with stars. Admiration overflowed in his chest. Yunxiang, however, sat stiffly, wanting to cry from sheer embarrassment. Don't be afraid, second princess. I'll save you. Yunxiang spat out his tea. Second princess? What the hell? Wasn't it supposed to be the second prince? Fear not, princess. A mere Qiongqi is nothing. Come at me, kill. 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 The battle raged on stage. Zhang Dagui was so moved he was practically in tears. In the finale, the princess offered herself in marriage, but Lu Bu turned away. Fate may bring us together again. Farewell. Yunxiang's face darkened. Are you kidding me? What kind of nonsense play is this? He wanted nothing more than to sink into the floor. Zhang Dagui slammed the table beside him. He shouted furiously, Young man, you've been making snide remarks throughout the performance. That's not only disrespecting Miss Jinghua, who adapted this play, but also insulting the senior it portrays. Apologize at once. Show respect to that elder. Zhang Dagui barked again, summoning his guards. Force him to apologize. Left with no choice, Song Yunxiang muttered awkwardly, all right, my apologies, everyone. That was my mistake. But Zhang pressed on. Too perfunctory. Show some sincerity in your apology. Tang Xiaowen jumped up in protest. Hey, you fatty. My brother Song already apologized. Why are you still pestering him? Zhang's face twisted in rage. What did you just call me? Fatty? You're the fatty. Your whole family's fat. Just as the quarrel threatened to spiral, a gentle voice rang out from the stage. Gentlemen, could you give me some face? The moment they recognized Jinghua's voice, every gaze turned upward. Lin Jinghua, dressed in flowing traditional robes, had quietly stepped into the hall. She spoke softly. I heard the commotion backstage, so I came to mediate. Please, allow me a few words. First, thank you, young master, for your attention to our work. The story in the play is an adaptation of old tales. It is not historical fact. Perhaps the young master of Cabin 1 truly experienced the battle himself, which explains his criticisms. I take them humbly, but for commercial reasons, some exaggeration was inevitable. I beg your understanding. So why not let this rest here? Please enjoy the next performance, which I will personally sing and play. Song Yunxiang could only smile awkwardly and nod. Sounds good. Zhang Dagui, embarrassed, quickly bowed his head. I was impulsive. My apologies. The host announced, next, please enjoy Miss Jinghua's original piece, Monument of Soul Generals. With that, a wave of music and song rippled through the grand atrium. Listening below, Yunxiang was overwhelmed with emotion. He remembered this as one of her early works before she rose to fame. After more than 10 years away from the Eastern continent, hearing it again filled him with nostalgia. Back then, as her fan, he had memorized many of her songs, especially the ones that made her name resound across the land. He wondered if those had already been composed by now. When the piece ended, Lin Jinghua bowed gracefully. Yet the audience remained unsatisfied, clamoring for more. She laughed lightly. Which song would you like to hear? Zhang Dagui shouted at the top of his lungs, Burning Star, though that song was only half finished. She couldn't resist the crowd's passion. Perhaps inspiration would strike on stage, so she agreed. Yunxiang's eyes lit with anticipation. He remembered that Burning Star was the song that propelled her to the rank of one of the 4 great divas. Her voice flowed soft and tender like a mountain brook. Then it swelled with power, crashing like ocean waves. At times it sank into sorrow, like Lin Dayu gazing at the moon, shedding tears for fallen blossoms. Song Yunxiang was entranced, unconsciously humming along. But as he reached the final lines, the hall suddenly fell silent. He realized every eye was fixed on him in shock. Lin Jinghua trembled, overcome with emotion. Seeing his confusion, Xiaoming hurried to whisper, Young master, that song's ending hasn't been written yet. But you just sang it out. His heart sank. He'd been so lost in memory that the words had slipped out. With tears glistening in her eyes, Lin Jinghua declared, What a line. The one who returns shall be me. Yes, one day, I of the Lin clan of Shishui will return with dignity. Your words unlocked my heart. I never thought I'd find a true kindred spirit here. This man, he truly understands me. Yunxiang froze, unsure what to say. The whole thing felt like being caught cheating on an exam, awkward beyond belief. At that moment, a surge of spiritual power poured into Lin Jinghua's body. She focused, and to her shock, her cultivation broke through. I've been stuck at the peak of the yellow rank for so long. Who would have thought a single verse from this young master could loosen my bottleneck? Another torrent of energy rushed through her, forcing a soft moan from her lips. The vision of her breakthrough unfolded before everyone's eyes. Yunxiang knew well, his humming was only a spark. The real cause was her years of accumulation, her realm already on the verge of advancing. Suddenly, dark clouds erupted across the sky. His face went pale. That fluctuation, a rift cloud. Lightning crackled within as the black mass spread at alarming speed. In the blink of an eye, it engulfed the skies above the ship. The control room picked up the anomaly instantly. The captain, stunned, barked orders, full acceleration, activate the highest level defensive array. Jinghua was still basking in her breakthrough. When the ship's sirens wailed, Beast invasion alert. Thunder split the heavens, a colossal black rift tearing open. Flocks of Baifeng beasts swarmed out of the void. The moment they spotted humans below, they attacked without hesitation. Countless beams of light rained down. The barrier barely managed to withstand the first wave, but the shockwaves shook the entire vessel violently. Jinghua lost her footing, tumbling from the platform. Yunxiang caught her swiftly in his arms. Looking up, his eyes darkened. Though Baifeng were mostly yellow and Earth-rank threats, their sheer numbers would soon overwhelm the defenses. The captain realized this too, immediately transmitting distress signals to nearby cities and deploying the ship's security squads. But the sluggish vessel was nothing but a target. Under relentless bombardment, the shield reached its limit. With a deafening crack, a gaping hole tore open. Beasts flooded inside. In desperation, one of Zhang Dagui's guards stepped forward. "Young master, protect yourself." With that, he summoned his mech and charged the Baifeng head-on. Just then, the system's cold warning rang in Yunxiang's ears. Super danger detected, beyond host's ability to resist. Immediate evacuation advised. His heart froze, sweat dripping down his back. At this altitude, there was no way to evacuate so many people. He only had his sole General Lu Bu and 2 scavenge cards. If only I had generals like Chao Run or Bai Qi, ones capable of flight. Sensing the danger, Fij also leapt into the fray. Side by side, the two fought desperately against the invading beasts. But then, 5 more Bifong beasts swooped in from outside. They immediately unleashed long-range blasts at the people below. The fighters rushed to summon their mechs, scrambling to block the strikes. Ordinary passengers were shielded by the formation Yunxiang had set up. He thought about sending the little girl's family down to the lower decks. But on second thought, staying by his side was far safer. If things got truly dire, he'd just have to take a few people and abandon ship. Everyone capable of fighting had already constructed their mechs and charged in. Lin Jinghua also drew her weapon, but in a moment of carelessness, a beast seized her. She was hurled straight toward Shenlu Wei. The two crashed together and fell hard. The Bifong used the opening to charge up a long-range strike. The two women were seconds away from disaster. That was when the Lu Bu mech roared onto the field. Yunxiang swung the sky halberd, skewering the beast's skull. Then he looked upward, calculating. 7 Baifangs had already breached the barrier. With the swarm outside, even everyone combined wouldn't hold much longer. He had no reason to hold back now. Star Master System. Unlock Lu Bu's DJ weapon. The Sky-Breaking Cloud Bow. The Sky-Breaking Bow was Lu Bu's strongest ranged weapon. Its destructive power was unmatched, but the drain was monstrous. Yunxiang had avoided using it unless there was no other choice. Meanwhile, Fij and Old Wu were still locked in aerial combat with 2 Baifangs. But when another beast joined the fight, their situation turned grim. Just then, spinning blades cut through the sky, easing the pressure on them. It was Nyla, piloting her bladed mech. Even with 3-on-3, though, it was still a stalemate. Then boom, a blazing pillar of light tore through the battlefield. The Bifong caught inside was instantly reduced to ash. The beam punched skyward, shredding every beast in its path. That devastating shot had come from Yunxiang's sky-breaking bow. The 3 fighters froze, stunned. The display of raw power drew the attention of 3 more Baifangs, which dove straight at Yunxiang. At close range, the bow was useless. He switched to its second form, the sky-breaking claw. He slammed a clawed strike at the first incoming beast. The creature's tough hides split open instantly. In a flash, 2 Baifangs were down. The last one panicked, wheeling around to flee. Yunxiang leapt high above it. SHHHK. His strike pierced clean through the beast's body. The onlookers stood frozen, jaws hanging open. Zhang Dagui's eyes sparkled like stars as he shouted, "Freaking awesome!" In the command room, a report rang out. The barrier would fail in 10 seconds. The captain's face drained of color. "Keep broadcasting distress signals on every channel," he barked. At that moment, a beast spotted them. It rammed madly against the glass in front. Luckily, Song Yunxiang rushed in time and sliced the creature in 2. He looked around at the spreading cracks. After a moment of thought, he once again raised the heaven-breaking cloud bow. "Let's end this," Dragon Serpent Arrow. The arrow shot out with a deafening roar, wrapped in a violent storm. Mid-flight, it split into dozens of bolts, sealing off the entire area. They rained down like meteors into the beast horde. A chain of explosions thundered through the sky. In one strike, dozens of beasts were reduced to ash. The surviving Bifong shrieked and called for reinforcements. Soon, dozens of stronger beasts swarmed from above. They opened their beaks in unison, charging up devastating energy beams. Song Yunxiang's chest tightened. Even if he could dodge, the ship behind him would never survive. Just as the beams were about to fall, he found himself with no options left. Suddenly, the charging beasts were blasted apart by countless cannons. The crisis was cut short. Reinforcements had arrived, a Ruhu-class sky-dominating warship. The command screen flickered, and a woman's voice rang out. "This is the Song Clan's Crimson Luan Army of Jiuan City. We've come to support your vessel. Retreat under our cover." The captain's face lit up, and he shouted, "Divert all energy to the reactor. Full speed ahead. Rendezvous with the Crimson Luan fleet." Gazing at the distant warship's outline, Song Yunxiang knew it was his elder sister Song Yunjin's all-female army. At this point, Song Yunjin hadn't recognized him yet, but her eyes widened at the sight of the Lubu Mecha. That's the warrior who saved the second prince in Yuanding City? He's on the ship too. Seems our young marquis might be useless, but his luck is god tier. Without that powerhouse, none of us would have lasted until reinforcements arrived. Song Mu stayed silent, but thought to himself, wait till you find out that so-called powerhouse is the very waste you call young Master Yunxiang. Then you'll be floored. Soon, the ship entered the protective range of the twin warships. The Bifong circling above tried to attack again, but at Song Yunjin's command, a storm of gunfire shredded the beasts into pieces. Seeing this, Song Yunxiang finally exhaled and prepared to rest. Yet the system's warning blared once more. Over-tier rift detected. Host must evacuate within 5 seconds. His whole body shook, his heart dropped into chaos. He jerked his head upward. A colossal rift, nearly 1,000 miles long, tore open in the sky. From within, a monstrous head slowly emerged. In a blink, the entire beast revealed itself. To it, the warships were nothing more than crumbs. Cold sweat poured down as Song Yunxiang recognized it. A god-tier beast, the ancient Kuan. The moment the legendary little Kuan appeared, everyone was on the verge of collapse. Even a sky-dominating warship carrying tens of thousands meant nothing before such a titan. It wasn't even enough to fill its teeth. Then the beast let out a simple roar. The sound blasted like a doomsday hawk, making ordinary people bleed from every orifice. Even the barrier of heaven-tier experts barely held on. Song Mu's eyes grew grave. If it roared again, he wouldn't last. He had to interrupt at the moment it inhaled. Song Yunjin struggled to her feet. All ships, prepare the cannons. Aim at the beast above. The two warships received the order and quickly moved into position. Just as the cannons were about to fire, Song Yunxiang's voice burst from the screen. "Stop. Don't fire." Both were stunned, unable to understand. "Crimson Luan Army, listen to me. I am Song Yunxiang." Song Yunjin froze in shock when she saw it was him. There was no time for greetings. Song Yunxiang pressed on. "That is a god-tier beast, the Kuan. We are absolutely no match for it. By its nature, as long as we show no hostility, we are nothing but specks of dust, insects too small to bother with. But if a bug dares to bite, that changes everything. So hear me now. Shut down all power cores, disengage every Star Soul construct, and let the ships fall freely. The instant we slip out of its vigilance range, I'll give the order. Ignite engines and flee at full speed." The merchant ship's captain gasped. From 3,300 zhang above, even a mistake meant certain death. Song Yunxiang knew this well, but it was the only way. He had once witnessed the Kuan inhale half a city in one breath. Song Mu didn't hesitate and barked the command. With Song Yunxiang's signal, the three ships cut all power. They plunged downward like stones. Inside, passengers were thrown around, bodies swaying violently under gravity's pull. Song Yunxiang shielded those near him, while silently counting down, 3, 2, 1. Now, power on. Full speed, 3 o'clock. The captains received the signal and didn't dare delay. Engines roared to life. In a flash, the ships vanished from their previous spot. Song Yunxiang collapsed, drained of both strength and soul force. He didn't wake for 4 hours. When he opened his eyes, the ships had already reached Yong'an City. Meanwhile, within the city, a young man stretched lazily. Several subordinates stood respectfully at his side. He glanced at the sky with a smug grin. Remember this name, Sun Xia. I'll rise as one of the 8 generals of Tiandu and become the strongest Star Soul Master. The next era belongs to Sun Xia, the genius. Isn't that right, old Du? When will I finally claim Star Soul General Chaorun? A voice answered from his ring. Soon, very soon. That fate belongs to you and to me. Yong'an City lay at the southeastern edge of Tiandu's territory, bordered by Shishui Nation to the east and backed by the Nanhuang Mountains to the west. It was both a vital gateway into Nanhuang and a key military fortress against beast tides. Before long, the ships docked at Yong'an Skyport. Song Yunxiang reunited with his steward Songmu. He threw his arms around him in relief. Probing carefully, he discovered Song Mu had been suppressing his cultivation, outwardly only late profound rank, but in truth, mid-heaven tier. In his past life, he had been too weak, thinking only the old master of the Song family was heaven tier. Never did he imagine that the man who had cared for him since childhood, almost like a nanny, was even stronger. The group exchanged brief introductions. Soon, people from Shunruo's side also came to greet them. After farewells, they parted ways. Just as Song Yunxiang was leaving, someone called out to him. He turned to see Lin Jinghua hurrying over. She slipped him a note, telling him she would remain in Yong'an City for half a month. If he had time, he should come find her. The note read, Jinghua wishes to sit and talk with the young lord. Without waiting for his reply, she left swiftly. Behind him, Song Mu coughed lightly. Young master, tonight the old lord has arranged a family banquet. Your fiancée, Miss Kong Xin, will also be there. At that name, a cold glint flashed in Song Yunxiang's eyes. In his previous life, after barely surviving the Death Desert and returning to Yong'an, she had shown up with Kong clan heaven tier experts, only to demand a divorce. Along with her came uncles and brothers who had all scorned him as trash. Now, he whispered coldly to himself, I'm back. The two then arrived at the Skyport's rear landing pad. The Song family's exclusive driver, Xia Beija, was already waiting. Song Yunxiang quickly greeted him. Xia Beija rose respectfully and invited him onto the airship. Yunxiang said nothing, but studied him carefully. To his shock, Xia Tu was mid-heaven tier, the same as Song Mu. He hid his reaction and boarded silently. Along the way, he unfolded Jinghua's note. It read, Top Suite, Yong'an Pavilion. Song Mu coughed again, reminding him once more about his fiancée. Embarrassed, Yunxiang tucked the note away. The vessel was fast. Within half an hour, they arrived at the eastern wing of the marquee of Jian Song Estate. At the gate, Guard Ma San led several men into formation to welcome him. Young master, how was life at the Martial Academy this past year? Did you bring the old lord a granddaughter-in-law? Hearing the tease, Yunxiang chuckled awkwardly. But when he clasped Ma San's hand, he froze. Yet another mid-heaven tier. As they watched the two walk inside, Xia Beija whispered to Ma San, Did you notice? The young master has broken through to Earth tier. I did. Not only is his damaged soul vein restored, he even tried to probe my true cultivation. Soon, they entered the presence of Song Jingzhong, patriarch of the Song family. The old master smiled warmly at him. In a flash, he moved to Yunxiang's side, praising, Well done. Gulme, let's talk in the study. Tell me about your year. No, about everything you've gone through recently. Song Yunxiang answered softly and followed along. But as he sensed the old master's aura, waves crashed in his heart. Heaven tier peak? No, half saint. On the surface, the old man was only early heaven tier, but in truth he stood just a breath away from saint tier, his strength likely above Elder Su. In his past life, his weak cultivation had blinded him. Never did he expect the Song clan to be hiding so many trump cards. Wait, If the clan had a half-saint and 3 mid-heaven tier experts, yet still perished in the southern wastes beast tide in his last life, did that mean his current preparations were far from enough? Hold on, was this a saint's aura? Though faint, like a dying flame, it was unmistakable, saint tier. Could the Song clan be hiding one even stronger? Damn it. The more aces the clan held, the more lacking his own cards seemed. No choice. He had to push them all in his saint tier. With that thought, Yunxiang followed the old master into the study. Inside, they set a go board between them. As stones fell, the game's momentum became clear. Even while restraining himself to just 30%, Yunxiang still outplayed him. Yet the old man only laughed cheerfully. The tide is set. I've lost. Songmu, leave us and close the door. Songmu bowed and withdrew. The two reset the board. Losing doesn't matter. Come, let's replay this match. Yunxiang didn't dwell on the deeper meaning of the word replay. See, my fatal mistake was here. This time, I'll change the move. When a game is lost, it can be replayed. All the stones on the board follow suit. But what if one stone jumps off the board and becomes the player? Yunxiang froze, thunderstruck. That stone, could it be him? Meanwhile, at the Yeoman City Lord's manor, raised voices echoed. City Lord Kong Fan rubbed his temples at his stubborn daughter. 20 years ago, their families had arranged a marriage, yet Kong Xinshin now refused to wed. Even knowing Yunxiang was no longer a cripple, she insisted he couldn't compare to her brother Sun Xia. Sun Xia? That street rat orphan? What future could he have? Who says he has no future? He's already the leader of the White Dragon Gang. He told me himself. Soon he'll be the host of the Star-Souled General Chao Run, within a month. Seeing her so defiant, Kong Fan prepared to scold her further. But just then, a voice rang from outside. If she won't marry, then so be it. The Song clan is nothing special. They rushed to the balcony, spotting a familiar figure hovering in midair. It was Kong Fan's father, Kong Zheng. Having just broken into early heaven tier, he could barely tread the sky. They all returned inside. Kong Zheng declared that his granddaughter and Sun Xia were a perfect match. With Xin as the only granddaughter, marrying into the Song clan might guarantee decades of comfort. But if she brought in a host of Chao Run, the family could enjoy centuries of wealth, even reclaim their place in Central Zhou. Now that I've reached heaven tier, we stand equal to the Song clan. A marriage alliance is only icing on the cake. As for Sun Xia, though an orphan, if he marries into our Kong clan, we'll pour every resource into him. After speaking, Kong Zheng looked at his granddaughter. Do you have the confidence to bring him into our clan? Blushing, Xin whispered, no problem. The rice is already cooked, it's a done deal. Delighted, Kong Zheng slammed the table. Good, then we'll go to the Song clan and annul this marriage. Kong Fan quickly stopped him and asked, there must be some acceptable reason, right? What reason do I need? I'm a heaven tier power who looks down upon the world. Strength is the law. If that old dog Song Jingzhong dares to make a move, I'll happily wreck the Song family in passing. Here, behold a treasure. I spent a fortune at the Hong Trading Guild to get this 3-star pill, the Zhuanggong pill. The scene then cut back to the Song household's courtyard. Song Yunxiang asked the patriarch, puzzled, what does jumping out of the game mean? The old man chuckled, changed the subject, and asked what Yunxiang had been doing lately. Yunxiang knew that telling them outright he'd been reborn from 60 years later would be too shocking. So he framed it as, he had accidentally wandered into a secret realm and gained huge opportunities there. He summarized, briefly, the years of exile and the beast tide he had witnessed. Soon after, the Southern Wastes erupted in an unprecedented beast tide. The Southern Wastes' Great Wall was destroyed, the Song family's soldiers wiped out, the beast swallowed Yong'an City and surged north. Later Malun invaded. Tiandu fought a decisive battle. I fled to Shishui and was sheltered by the Empress. He condensed his long ordeal into those few lines. An hour passed quickly. At that moment, the Song household's chief steward rushed in with urgent news for the patriarch. Song Mu intercepted him, saying the inner room was in the middle of an important discussion and could not be disturbed. Inside, Yunxiang finished his account. Finally, after the last stronghold of humanity in the north exploded itself, I woke up. Was it a dream trapped in an illusion, or did I actually travel back 60 years? Sounds unbelievable, right? The old master showed little shock. Instead, he muttered, "Damn, 60 years? Strange, she never told me it would be that long. She probably never expected the lad to cling on for 60 years before dying." He glanced at Yunxiang and said gravely, "The Star-Lord system is a grave matter. You must not reveal it to anyone. Use Zhuisi as a cover. Claim to be Zhuisi's successor. Now it's time I hand some things over to you." Yunxiang asked in confusion what those things were. The old man replied, "What I give you is something left by your mother. Everything I know comes from her. She once prophesied, one day you might grow unusually powerful, or your soul veins might naturally heal, or you'd claim to have traveled through time. She told me not to be surprised when that day came. Whatever you say, I must believe you." The old master's tone grew solemn. "It's time I handed something over to you." Hearing this, Song Yunxiang froze for a moment and asked in confusion, "What is it?" The old master replied slowly, "It's something your mother left behind. Everything I know came from her. She once foretold that one day you would suddenly become abnormally strong. Perhaps your soul veins would heal, or perhaps you would even claim to have come from beyond the flow of time. And she warned me that no matter what you said when that day came, I must not be shocked. I must believe you without question." The patriarch continued, "This chest was left by your mother. She also said that the laws of time cannot be defied by mortals, and under the star net, everything is part of the game." What? He actually knows about the star net? Just who is she? Shock rippled through Song Yunxiang as his mother's blurred figure surfaced in his mind. The old master was about to say more when a golden ripple surged from outside. Both of them sensed it, their expressions changing drastically. It's that same frail Saint Tier aura again. Before Yunxiang could react, the old master shouted, "Not good." He rushed out the door. "Yunxiang, come with me." The four of them sped off together toward a hidden location. They stepped into an elevator leading deep underground. The lift plunged straight down hundreds of meters. When the doors opened, what lay beyond was a vast underground space, complete with artificial lighting and formations that sealed off soul force fluctuations. The group soon arrived before a sealed chamber. Pushing the door open, they were met with the sight of a dying elder. The patriarch stepped forward and softly called, "Third uncle." The elder slowly opened his eyes. "I can feel it. My time is almost up. At best, a month remains. Who is this boy?" The patriarch hurried to introduce, "Yunxiang, this is my third uncle. You should call him third granduncle." Yunxiang stepped forward and bowed deeply. Third granduncle tried to speak, but a violent cough racked his body. Bang! Waves of golden pressure exploded through the chamber. The patriarch reacted instantly, raising his hand to block it. Yunxiang absorbed and deflected the force several times before landing safely on the ground. Only when the aura subsided did they dare to move closer. The elder sighed. "Forgive me. I lost control just now. As my lifespan burns out, this body is like a cracked balloon. My Saint Tier's soul power keeps leaking out uncontrollably." His gaze locked onto Yunxiang, surprise flashing in his eyes. The boy wasn't harmed by that surge. Impressive. No wonder. He truly is the son of those two. Zhong, you brought him here. Are you planning to cultivate him as a key heir? The old master nodded. Yes. Yunxiang has gained extraordinary fortune. Not only has his soul vein healed, but his strength has skyrocketed. And in a secret realm, he saw a vision. 1 month from now, a beast tide from the southern wastes will swallow Yong'an City in blood. An ancient civilization? Yunxiang, in the future you saw, did our Song family survive? Yunxiang didn't hide the truth and replied flatly, almost completely wiped out. The two elders sucked in a sharp breath at his words. The old master tried to steady his brother. Third uncle, whether what he saw in that secret realm was the true future or just an illusion, we can't afford to dismiss it. Better to believe it's real and prepare early, which means there are secrets that must now be. The third granduncle cut him off. I know. Let me say it myself. Listen carefully, Yunxiang. I am Song Bingchuan, once one of the 8 generals of Tiandu and the bonded host of the Star Soul General, Chaorun. That can't be right, Yunxiang muttered, stunned. This didn't match what he remembered. In his memory, the host of Chaoran was a young man named Sun Xia. The third granduncle sighed helplessly. When my life runs out, Chaoran will reform into a soul jade and seek a new master. Perhaps this young man you mentioned is destined to be the next one. The old master roared in frustration. Damn it, is there truly no cure? I once read in ancient texts that on the southern continent, there are pills that can extend one's lifespan. If we could obtain even one, the Song family would spare no cost, even if it meant emptying our coffers. Song Yunxiang thought for a moment. Lifespan extending pills, huh? A 7-star pill can add 3 to 5 years. An 8-star pill can extend life by 5 to 10 years. And a 9-star pill, the so-called longevity pill, is said to add more than 30 years. A faint smile tugged at his lips. As it happens, I know how to refine all three. What? You can refine pills? The old master lunged forward, clutching his arm with trembling excitement. Song Yunxiang nodded. Yes, some are difficult, but the 7-star lifespan pill, I can craft that with full confidence. Seeing their disbelief, he simply pulled out a storage card. With a flash, a golden pill shimmered into existence. This was refined on my way here, he explained. An 8-star heavenly spirit pill. It can push a heaven rank cultivator up by a minor realm, though it only works the first time. The two elders gasped aloud. An 8-star heavenly spirit pill. Song Yunxiang smiled and handed it over. This was prepared especially for you, grandfather. Why not take it now? The old master's hands shook violently as he received the pill. Yunxiang, from this moment on, your authority in the Song family is equal to mine. All men and resources are yours to command. You must refine a lifespan pill for your third uncle. The old master quickly said, don't rush. Let me examine granduncle's body first. Granduncle, allow me to check your pulse. Hearing this, he extended his left hand. Use this one. My right arm is only a prosthetic. In that great battle back then, I lost half my body and nearly died. Since then, I've faked my death and hidden beneath the Song estate. At that moment, the system's prompt echoed. Detected contact with a Star Soul general data bearer. Beginning data extraction. Extraction complete. Initiating replication of Star Soul General Chao Run. Replication complete. Warning, error detected. 7% of Chao Ren's data is corrupted. Attempting correction. Song Yunxiang's face darkened instantly upon hearing this. The old master and granduncle immediately pressed him for answers. Song Yunxiang replied in a low voice, it's nothing. Most likely granduncle's missing body parts disrupted the flow of his Star Soul veins. The priority now is to gather the materials for the life-prolonging pill. Later, I'll figure out a way to regenerate the missing half of your body. Granduncle was stunned. What? Are you saying this half of my body can actually grow back? Song Yunxiang nodded firmly. That's right, but that will come later. For now, time is pressing. I need to focus on preparing the ingredients for the pill. We'll talk more once that's done. Saying that, he produced a few pills to ease the old man's bodily pain and handed them over. Then he left the chamber. Once inside the elevator, he couldn't wait and asked the Star-Lord system, what caused the data corruption? The system pinged back. Ding. Unknown cause detected for Star Soul general data corruption. Marking damaged regions. System will redraw appearance and reconstruct missing architecture. Plan computed. Beginning reconstruction of missing data. Estimated time remaining 33 days. Shortly afterward, he returned to his residence. The maid Zissou rushed up excitedly to greet him. Seeing her teary, snotty face, Song Yunxiang pushed her aside with a hint of disdain. At that moment, a newly transferred maid caught his eye. Zissou introduced her. Her name is Suan. She was moved over from the outer quarters a few days ago. Average build, so looks, and just okay at her work. Sensing something off, Song Yunxiang ordered the Star-Lord system to scan the room. The readout showed she was actually mid-yellow rank, with a small concealment implant hiding her cultivation level as an ordinary person. He frowned. Another Maloon infiltrator? Before he could think further, Zissou piped up. How can you compare her to my flat chest figure? Look at me, look at me. The other maid, Leonie, heard the commotion and hurried out. The servants all greeted their young master at once. Two more maids stepped forward to welcome him as well. The head maid Qing Dai exclaimed in disbelief. Master Yunxiang actually broke through from yellow rank to ground rank in under a year. Unbelievable. Song Yunxiang glanced at Qing Dai and thought to himself, she really isn't ordinary at early ground rank. She's been around me for a long time. Could she be one of Old Master's secret protectors? Meanwhile, after he left, the Old Master ordered Song Mu. From now on, everyone in the Song family and all resources will be under Song Yunxiang's command. Every instruction he gives is to be treated as the patriarch's decree. No approval needed. Execute immediately. The scene then shifted back to Song Yunxiang, his extravagant young master lifestyle on full display. Several maids attended to him meticulously, even removing his clothes for him. Even his tea was delivered the instant he lifted a hand. While sipping his tea, he suddenly remembered something. He quietly assigned Zissou a task. She was to keep an eye on the trainee maid named Suin, but to stay safe while doing so. Zissou quickly agreed, saying she had suspected that girl for a while. With everything arranged, Song Yunxiang dismissed the maids, saying he wanted to rest. The four of them bowed respectfully and left. As the bedroom door closed, he finally let out a long breath. He picked up the wooden box left by his mother, curiosity written all over his face. Though the material looked ordinary, it was sealed with a third-level encryption array. Only the correct password could unlock it. Unfortunately, the Old Master hadn't given him the code, so he summoned the Star-Lord system to force a hack. While waiting, he recalled the Old Master's last words. Humans cannot defy the laws of time. Time cannot be traveled, but the board can be reset. Under the Star Net, everything is but a chessboard. What exactly was that supposed to mean? Moments later, the system chimed, decoding complete. He entered a string of numbers as instructed. With a sharp snap, the wooden box opened. What he saw inside left him stunned. There lay a jade lock, a mask, and a token inscribed with 3 characters, Treading Stargate. He remembered that in his previous life, when he joined the Xuanjia Guard, he had heard those words. Rumor had it many of the Guard's secret campaigns were tied to the Treading Stargate, but within the Guard the name itself was taboo. No one dared speak it aloud. He then picked up the jade lock. The craftsmanship was fine, but its use was unclear. Next, he reached for the mask. The moment his fingers touched it, for words blazed across the surface, all beings without form. On the back were the words, form arises from the heart. Strangely, the mask had no openings for eyes or nose. Out of curiosity, he placed it on his face. To his surprise, despite the lack of openings, he could see the outside world with perfect clarity. He glanced at the mirror and was stunned to see himself as he would be 60 years later. What the hell? Did I just reveal my true form? At that moment, Qing Dai happened to push the door open. When she saw Song Yunxiang's appearance, she froze in shock. Snapping back to her senses, she instantly drew her weapon. With sharp vigilance, she demanded, "Who are you? Where is young Master Yunxiang?" Yunxiang hurried forward, trying to explain, but Qing Dai suddenly thrust her sword straight at him. Fortunately, Yunxiang's battle experience was overwhelming. He moved like lightning and restrained her in an instant. Realizing she couldn't win, Qing Dai tried to shout for the guards outside. But before she could utter a sound, Yunxiang covered her mouth and nose. Catching their ambiguous pose in the mirror, he felt awkward. "Shh, don't scream. Not my fault. You came to me first." He then recalled the words etched on the back of the mask. Form arises from the heart. Could it really shape-shift based on one's thoughts? He decided to test it. With a sharp swish, he instantly transformed into Qing Dai's exact appearance, while the two of them remained locked in the same position. Just as I thought. Picture yourself in your mind, and you can freely change form. No wonder I revealed my true face earlier. That must be how I really see myself deep down. The scuffle hadn't been loud, but it still caught the attention of those outside. Hearing approaching footsteps, Yunxiang cursed inwardly. Not good. He quickly willed himself back into his own appearance, just in time before anyone entered. Song Mu then rushed in with 2 young men. Seeing the compromising pose, one of them gave a thumbs up. "Damn, young master, you never disappoint. A true role model for us all." Song Mu coughed awkwardly, then reminded, "Young master, don't forget, Your fiancé, Kong Xingxing, will be attending tonight's family banquet. Before he could finish, Yunxiang cut him off impatiently. Enough, Uncle Mu. You said that 10,000 times today already. Qingdai finally realized it really was her young master and quickly tried to apologize. Yunxiang silenced her with a gesture, signaling, "It's fine, don't say a word. You know what I mean." He then turned to Song Mu. "So, Uncle Mu, what's the matter?" Song Mu replied, "Yes, young master. Please come with me to the study." The group headed straight for the study. Yunxiang wasted no time and asked directly, "Uncle Mu, Qingdai, was she placed at my side by the old master?" Song Mu nodded. "Yes, this was supposed to remain confidential. She is an Earth-tier expert from the Shadow Guard's 3rd Division, my subordinate." At the mention of Shadow Guards, Yunxiang immediately recalled the group who had once sacrificed themselves to smuggle him out of Jian City in his past life. Songmu paused, then continued. The Shadow Guards are split into 3 divisions. Unit 1 handles combat, Unit 2 handles intelligence, and Unit 3 handles defense. Each has its own duties, and none interfere with the others. By the old master's order, from now on, every Shadow Guard follows your command. You are their sole master. He gestured to the 2 men beside him. This is Aga, leader of Unit 1, and this is Ajin, leader of Unit 2. Ajin, Aga, what kind of ridiculous names are those? Yunxiang was dumbfounded. The 2 immediately dropped to their knees. Subordinate Gao Gaiga, paying respects to young master Yunxiang. Subordinate Ma Jinhua, paying respects to young master Yunxiang. Hearing their full names, Yunxiang's face twitched with embarrassment. Your names really are something else. Song Mu quickly explained, "Young master, please be careful with your words. They were orphans, and the names were given by the 3rd madam, your mother." Gao Gaiga's eyes lit up. "Yes, the 3rd madam said my name came from a hero in an ancient civilization." Ma Jinhua grinned, "And mine was even greater. She said it belonged to a demon god from those same ancient legends. We were nameless, starving children. If not for the 3rd madam, we would have died in the slums." At the words, ancient civilization, Yunxiang frowned slightly. His mother, whom he had no memory of, what exactly was her origin? He remembered the old master once saying that 16 years ago they had vanished, with the official story being an accident. At that time, he had only been 2 years old, leaving him with no memory of her. Back then, he was arrogant and reckless, never caring. Later, running for his life left him no chance to ask. After decades of struggle and bloodshed, he had long since buried the thought. But had he overlooked something? The more he thought about it, the more Yunxiang felt things weren't so simple. He turned to Song Mu and asked, "You should know the truth about what happened to my parents 16 years ago, shouldn't you?" At this, sweat instantly broke out on Song Mu's forehead. He stammered, clearly unwilling to answer. Seeing this, Yunxiang actually felt relieved. In his past life, as well, they all avoided speaking about his parents. "Forget it. If you won't say, I won't force you. In that case, arrange a trip to the family cemetery. I want to pay my respects, Uncle Mu. Please make the arrangements." Song Mu finally exhaled in relief and bowed. "Yes, young master." The group then left the room. Yunxiang glanced at Qingdai, then turned back to Song Mu. "She's under my command now as well, isn't she?" "Of course," Song Mu replied at once. "Qingdai, step forward and greet young master Yunxiang again. From this moment, he is the sole master of the Shadow Guards." Following the order, Qingdai knelt immediately. Shadow Guards, 3rd Division, number 28, Qingdai, paying respects to my master. Yunxiang nodded in satisfaction. "Years of silently protecting me must have been hard. You've done well. Take this pill as a reward." He pulled a pill from his storage card and handed it to her. The moment she recognized it, Qingdai froze in shock. Even the well-traveled Song Mu was stunned, for they both recognized it as a 5-star pill worth over $1 million. Yunxiang explained calmly, "The 5-star Earth Spirit pill. It boosts Earth-tier cultivation by 1 minor realm, with no side effects, but only works the first time." "What? A direct boost by a realm?" Gao Gaiga and Ma Jinhua felt as if a storm was raging inside them. Qingdai too looked utterly incredulous. Such a treasure would be priceless, even in the royal family of Tiandu. Seeing their shock, Yunxiang smirked. "It's only a 5-star pill. I have plenty. Right now, I need trustworthy people, and I'll raise their strength myself. Perform well, and you'll have your share too. Hearing this, the two were overjoyed, dropping to their knees to pledge their loyalty. Watching his young master win hearts with such ease, Song-mu couldn't help but feel gratified. Yoon Xiang then instructed, Uncle Mu, prepare a carriage. We're going to the family cemetery. Also, Unit 2 handles intelligence, right? Dig up some information for me on someone. With the command given, everyone immediately moved into action. Not long after, a flying vessel glided over the Song family estate. In the cockpit, the driver, Xia Beija, frowned. Strange, why would guard Ma San be coming along too? Ma San chuckled, lowering his voice. Haven't you noticed? Young Master Song Yunxiang seems completely different since he returned. With that, the two couldn't resist sneaking glances toward the rear cabin. There, Song Yunxiang was busy purchasing rare herbs from a branch manager of the Hong Chamber of Commerce. Looking over the list, the manager felt awkward. Many of the ingredients were ones he'd never even heard of. Fortunately, this was the southern headquarters. He could consult the alchemy experts stationed here. After promising a reply, the call ended. The manager then stepped into a lavish office. He bowed respectfully to the young woman seated inside. She was none other than Hong Yuxiao, the direct heir of the Hong family. At just 21, she was already in charge of all chamber operations in the southern region. At that moment, Hong Yuxiao was flipping through Song Yunxiang's dossier with keen interest. A client who could casually refine 6-star pills was someone she could not take lightly. Song Yunxiang, how intriguing. Arrange a meeting for me. I'll see this young marquis myself. Meanwhile, in a remote mountain range, a crimson airship streaked across the skies. At the helm was none other than A-san, the girl who had vanished from Tiandu. Reaching her destination, she contacted headquarters, code 896289, requesting entry clearance. Moments later, a calm voice confirmed authorization. Without hesitation, she piloted the craft straight into a roaring waterfall. Hidden behind it lay the secret base of the Taiyuan organization. After landing, A-san disengaged her gear. The sight of the familiar structures eased her tension. She hurried deeper into the base. Turning a corner, she was suddenly embraced by a weeping girl, her junior sister, Sinan. Seeing her in tears, A-san quickly asked what had happened. Through sobs, Sinan explained, Master, he took an ambush from that bastard Miluo while trying to save me. What? A-san froze in disbelief. Regaining her senses, the two rushed toward the infirmary. Inside, their master lay pale and dying on the bed, while medical staff scrambled desperately around her. Master! Asa rushed over, calling out in panic. The woman on the bed slowly opened her eyes at the sound. She was none other than Su Anyang, a heaven-rank assassin and the ace of the Taiyuan organization. Seeing her disciple return safely, Su Anyang forced a faint smile on her pale face. Ace's heart ached at her frail appearance. Master, are you poisoned? She noticed the black veins on her arm and couldn't help but ask. A medic stepped forward and explained. Senior Sonyang fell into a Methria ambush. The external wounds are stable, but a strange toxin is corroding her soul meridians. What kind of poison is this? Don't tell me, even with Taiyuan's technology, we still can't produce an antidote. The medic's face tightened before answering. We've tried 12 formulas. All failed. Right now, we can only use filtration to slow its spread to the brain, but time is running out. He projected an image. Look here, this toxin seems to be something new, born in this very era. There's no antidote in the Taiyuan archives. Its molecular bonds are fused with soul power. To me, it resembles the handiwork of alchemists. At the word alchemist, Ace's eyes widened. You mean an alchemist might be able to save her? The medic nodded. Perhaps, but in the Eastern continent, alchemy is far too underdeveloped. The pills here simply don't have the potency. Alchemy, huh? The word triggered a memory. Asa suddenly recalled Song Yunxiang, the man who had once handed her a storage card, saying, You'll need this one day. Without hesitation, she pulled the card out. With a sharp whoosh, over a dozen bottles of glowing pills appeared beside the bed. The two medics froze in shock. They never expected so many. Sorting through them, They found not only restorative Huichun pills, but also combat enhancers. One medic picked up a white pill, examining it closely. He sniffed it carefully at his nose. After confirming, he quickly passed it to his colleague for analysis. The results stunned them. The pill's microstructure perfectly matched the toxin's pattern. It could neutralize the poison in Suan Yang's body. Realizing their master could be saved, both medics smiled in relief. Asa, however, was unsettled. Was this just coincidence? Song Yunxiang, who on earth are you? Not long after, deep within Taiyuan headquarters, a hooded figure stepped into a colossal gate 100 meters tall. His footsteps echoed sharply in the cavernous hall. He stopped before a high platform, dropped to his knees, and called out, "Great High Priest." The shadowy figure above asked in a low voice, "How is Sun Yang's condition?" The kneeling man replied, "Reporting, my lord. After taking the pill Asa obtained from Target S-691, the strange toxin has been suppressed." The code S-691 pointed to Song Yunxiang. The high priest immediately pulled up his file. When he saw the image of Song Yunxiang manifesting as Lu Bu, his eyes narrowed. Impossible. Replicating the Origin Star General's form? That's a technique only he should possess. Could it be this ordinary man's body has already been taken over? But why not use the vessel I prepared? Is it truly you returned? Meanwhile, at the Song family cemetery, as Song Yunxiang was paying respects to his parents, he suddenly sneezed. Rubbing his nose in annoyance, he muttered, "Damn it, who the hell's talking trash about me?" Ma Jinhua chuckled and teased, "Maybe it's some girl missing you, young master." Song Mu cleared his throat sharply, warning him not to joke around. Startled, Ma Jinhua quickly turned his head aside. Staring at his parents' tombstone, Song Yunxiang's doubts only deepened. His system detected no remains, just an empty cenotaph. Was this a cover set up by the old master? Thinking of the mask of all beings, he grew more certain. His parents were no ordinary people. But what secret had they disappeared with? Just then, Ma Jinhua's wristwatch pinged with a message. He checked it and immediately reported to Song Yunxiang. "We found traces of Sun Xia, 19 years old, a street thug from the slums of Yong'an City, jailed once for grave robbing. Lately, he formed a gang called the White Dragon Crew, named himself boss, and makes a living fencing stolen tomb goods. Right now, he's holed up in an abandoned house at number 13 Dog Beating Alley." "Good. Let's pay him a visit." Song Yunxiang didn't hesitate and led his men away from the cemetery. At the landing pad outside, Ma San and Xia Beizhou were killing time, waiting for their return. "TCH, I don't trust that Kong Xingxing girl at all. Now that the young master's had his lucky break, soul veins restored, power skyrocketing. Why should he still marry that kind of trash just to keep the Song family's cover?" Xia Beizhou shot him a cold glare. "You're suggesting the young master break off the engagement? The Marquis will never allow such betrayal." Ma San's eyes gleamed with scheming intent. Second master's son, Yun Rue, has been mooning over Kong Xingxing for years. Hand the engagement over to the West Courtyard. Let that idiot take the fall. He snickered, adding, "And don't forget, back then, Third Madam arranged a first wife for the young master. Ever heard the saying? Older by 3 years, worth a brick of gold. Older by 9, worth all you can hold." Before the words faded, Song Yunxiang and his men stepped out from the cemetery. Once the destination was set, their airship accelerated straight into the city. Evening soon fell. In the northern district, at the abandoned house on number 13 Dog Beating Alley, one of Sun Xia's lackeys, Bucktooth, rushed into the yard, carrying a sack with excitement. "Boss, Chief. Big haul. Monkey's crew brought back plenty of treasures this time." Sun Xia shot up, face darkening. "Damn it. What boss? That sounds like a thug. Call me Chief." Chief." Bucktooth grinned, quickly opening the sack. He laid out the old artifacts neatly in 2 rows. "Chief, take a look at what we'll keep." Monkey's guys are waiting at the door. Sun Xia stared at the items, outwardly calm, but secretly asking the old spirit inside his ring for appraisal. After receiving guidance, he pointed carelessly. "These few are trash. We're taking the rest." He ordered, "Tell Monkey by White Dragon rules, we take 70%. They cover transport and bribes themselves." Bucktooth broke into a sweat. "But Chief, that leaves them with only 30%. plus costs. Isn't that too harsh? Sun Xia sneered, eyes arrogant. Shut it. I own the sales channels. My Vortislav. They'll wait a month for their cut. If they complain, I'll delay it another month. Bucktooth nodded frantically and ran out. From afar, Song Yunxiang and Ma Jinhua watched everything unfold. Their stealth array bent light, blocked sound, and masked soul power. No one could detect them. Still too far, they crept closer until they found a vantage point and peeked out. Oblivious, Sun Xiao was still boasting. Old Du, any of these treasures useful to boost my cultivation? When told no, he sighed in disappointment. Figures. Can't be lucky every time. Still, flipping these will net tens of thousands of Tian capital coins. Thanks again, Old Du. His tone shifted, eager. Without you, I'd be nothing. Tell me, can I really become the new vessel for Soul General Chao Run? A faint soul force rippled from the ring. Rest easy. As long as we work together, it's within reach. I can sense Chao Ren's current vessel's flame of life is nearly burned out. On the roof, Song Yunxiang's frown deepened. This Sun Xia's soul aura, it didn't match the one he knew. No, this isn't the same Sun Xia. His eyes sharpened. The aura is in that ring. That's the real one I knew. Then who the hell is this lookalike wearing his skin? Just then, Ma Jinhua whispered, Young Master, intel from Second Squad. Lady Kong is on her way here. Song Yunxiang asked absently, Lady Kong? Ma Jinhua replied quickly, Your fiancée, Kong Xingxing, daughter of Lord Kong. She's 2 streets away. Song Yunxiang narrowed his eyes. How do you know she's headed here? Ma Jinhua hesitated, nervous. Rumors say she has some connection with Sun Xia. He waved his hands quickly. Don't be angry, young master. It's unverified gossip. We got agents in the Kong family. I'll confirm right away. Song Yunxiang cut him off, calm. No need. We're leaving. Before leaving, he glanced back one last time, his gut telling him the ring was far more sinister than it appeared. Back on the main street, he ordered, have men keep watch. Here, 200 shadow talismans. Give them to our scouts. He handed Ma Jinhua a storage card. Ma Jinhua nearly choked. 200? The same invisibility you just used. Song Yunxiang shook his head. Weaker, but they can seal presence well enough. Extra cover for our people. Ma Jinhua's face lit up. Holy crap, that's divine gear. We're rich. Thank you, young master. I'll handle it right away. With that, he leapt high, vanishing with a sharp whoosh. Song Yunxiang gazed at the sunset glow, thoughts surging. It's getting dark. Time to head back for tonight's family banquet. Meanwhile, in the workshop district of Yuanding City's Mecha Academy, Tang Jinshui, newly arrived in Yong'an City, called up an old colleague to let them know he was safe. He also asked how things were going at the academy. His colleague groaned. Busy as hell. Teacher Nang was driving us hard to finish a shipment. As he spoke, his gaze shifted toward 2 figures in the hall. There, Nang Dangfeng was briefing the dean's secretary, Xiao Ye, on the mass production progress of the upgraded Wei Yuan model. As long as the supply chain doesn't screw up, we'll hit the quota on time. Plus, I've prepared a little surprise for Master Song. He chuckled smugly. Didn't sleep a wink last night. Been working on something guaranteed to impress him. Heavy armor defense, artillery-level firepower, splash damage, and an aerial backpack for mobility. This is the ultimate form of the Wei Yuan. His grin widened. When Master Song sees this, he'll have no choice but to take me as his disciple. Xiao Ye forced a smile. Sound impressive. But inside, she was rolling her eyes. Isn't this just slapping everything together? Even if it works, who could afford the soul force drain? Pleased by her words, Nangwa grew even bolder. Still room for improvement. I might add some extra shields too. The colleagues nearby were left speechless. On the call, Tang Jinshui perked up. Mass-producing the Wei Yuan. Huh? Perfect. My wife's family runs mining and metallurgy. If you need materials, I'll make sure you get priority supply. After a few more pleasantries, the call ended. Night fell quickly. At the Marquis Song residence, the grand banquet hall blazed with light. Soon, a crimson airship descended outside. A woman in high-heeled boots stepped out. At the doorway, several family members turned to sneer. Well, if it isn't big Sis Yunjin. Finally found time to ditch the border wars and sit in on a boring family feast? Or did you blow through your military budget again and come crawling home for a handout? The speaker, fanning herself with a feather fan, was Song Yunxiu, 24 years old, the eldest daughter of Song Bo, making her Song Yunxiang's cousin. Brilliant at managing external investments, she had little interest in cultivation, staying only at the early profound stage. Beside her stood a youth with similar features, Song Yunrui, 17, son of Song Bo. Already at mid-profound stage, he was the one Ma Jinhua had mentioned, harboring a crush on Kong Xingxing. Standing respectfully behind her was Song Shui, the chief steward of the west wing of the Song estate. The woman in red was Song Yunjin, 26, eldest daughter of the elder brother Song Qing. She commanded the all-female Qi Yuan army and personally served as its general, her cultivation at the early Earth stage. Hearing the sarcastic remark, Song Yunjin let out a cold snort, her eyes flashing with obvious disgust. Meanwhile, in the outer banquet hall, several people had already gathered. At the head seat sat the current patriarch, the elder Song Jingzhou. Stroking his beard, he glanced left and asked, "Is the eldest not coming?" A middle-aged woman quickly answered, "Father, Song Qing said military duties keep him occupied. He'll return at the end of the month during leave." This was the elder's wife, 46, a noble lady from the He clan of Zhongzhou, mother of Song Yunjin and Song Yunqi. "Fine, fine." The old man waved his hand, then asked, "And the second one?" To his right, another woman replied, "Father, Song Bo said he has a business engagement tonight." This was Lady Chung, 40 years old, wife of the second brother Song Bo, from one of Tiandu's top 3 merchant families, and mother of Song Yunxiu and Song Yunrui. At the word engagement, the patriarch's voice grew sharp with anger. "Engagement my ass. With who?" He didn't say. Lady Chung answered, frowning. With a thunderous slap on the table, the old man roared, "Cut the crap. Tell him to drag his ass back here right now." "Please calm down, Marquis," another woman hurried to explain. This was Lady Zhao, one of Song Bo's concubines from a family of physicians, in charge of his medical trade, and mother of Song Yunjiao. "My lord said it's a messenger from the Zhang clan of Zhongzhou. A huge deal is on the line." She added quickly, "This involves the Zhang clan's heir dispute. They're willing to pay a massive price for our support. My lord promised he'd wrap things up fast and return as soon as possible." Hearing this, the patriarch's expression eased slightly. Just then, a voice sounded from outside. "Greetings, grandfather. Greetings, first aunt, second aunt, and honored concubines." Seeing Song Yunxiang enter, the old man finally cracked a smile. "Come here, Yunxiang, sit by me." Lady Zhou, another of Song Bo's concubines, warmly pulled out the chair beside her. "You've grown taller again. Are you eating well at the academy?" She had once been a maid in the East Wing, now mother to the youngest of the 3rd generation, Song Yunhua. Yunxiang quickly went over and thanked her. Lady Zhou had always been truly kind to him. "Sit here, Yunxiang," the patriarch said, pointing to the seat closest to his right hand. Just as he was about to sit down, Yunxiang froze for a moment. Then he straightened and walked over. Passing by Lady Zhao, a strong medicinal fragrance drifted into his nose. Lady Zhao raised her brows in surprise. "That must be a pill above 3 stars, isn't it?"